and perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start of Monday, but for most of us, Monday and Tuesday do look a bit brighter and temperatures will generally be staying around about average for the time of year.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB.
It's only on demand.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan Tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock. Welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Coming up, my niggle, I'll be discussing Donald Trump's decisive and democratic defeating election victory, which has sent the Liberal left into meltdown.
What the hell? You cannot be serious. How did I wake up to this garbage as my president? That's right, garbage.
That's in my niggle at 4 o'clock. It's hilarious. So, is a Trump win good for Britain? He's very likely to disagree with the Labour government on key issues such as defence, climate change and trade, so pretty much anything and everything, but could sympathise with us over Brexit, of course. So what do you think? Is a Trump win good for Britain? I've got a poll up right now on X asking you that very question. Cast that vote now. Also on the way, difficult conversations. Former British Olympian Fatima Whitbread will be joining me live in the studio as she launches a new book talking about her childhood, growing up in care and what motivated her. That's Difficult Conversations, and as ever we love to go live, but we'll go live to Tel Aviv to get Uri Geller's thoughts on the violence in Amsterdam and what a Trump victory means for the Middle East. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. Your top story this hour. The Queen is set to miss remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. Queen Camilla had hoped to join the royal family at the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance this evening and to honour all of the war dead at the Remembrance Sunday ceremony on Whitehall. This comes as Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would attend both the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph and the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall tonight. Boris Johnson has suggested that Donald Trump would certainly do a trade deal with the UK. The former Prime Minister said the US President-elect is offering economic hope, but that the government would be too pathetic to try to secure a deal. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage said the UK needs to roll out the red carpet for Trump and that America is our most important relationship in terms of trade. Farage also said he would help mend fences between Sir Keir Starmer's government and the incoming Trump administration following tensions over previous comments. In other news, Iran has rejected a report it was behind an alleged plot to assassinate Donald Trump, calling it a repulsive claim to complicate matters between Iran and America. This comes as the US has charged an Iranian man in connection with an alleged plot to assassinate Trump ahead of the election. The department described Farhad Shakari as an Iranian asset residing in Tehran. It said he immigrated to the US as a child and was deported in 2008 following a robbery conviction. Back in the UK, the Deputy President of the NFU, David Exwood, has said there's many things wrong with the budget and it's threatened food supplies. This comes as farmers are planning a protest in central London on the 19th of November. It's in response to Rachel Reeves' changes to inheritance tax on farmers. Speaking at the Lord Mayor's show today, Mr Exwood told GB News about how NFU are feeling.
NFU is representing farmers in the way it does best by working on how to change MP's mind. And there's many ways of doing that, and we will keep doing that. And everybody wants to play their part. Again, farmers are united and they're determined. I want to be really clear about this. We know how we feel about it. We know the value of what we do, and we have got to bring that to the government, because this isn't just about tax. This is actually about backing British farming. And again, that's what we're going to do today. Send out a message about the importance of farming, the value we bring to the country, and how we want everybody to get behind farmers. We have to do that. There's no choice.
Meanwhile, some breaking news. 17 people have been taken to hospital after a crash involving two double-decker buses in Manchester. The accident happened this morning near the junction of Rochdale Road and Livesey Street on the edge of the city centre. 9 ambulances, an air ambulance, 2 response vehicles and an advanced paramedic were sent to the scene. Fortnum & Mason has apologised for a failure of communication to Paralympians who were not invited to a party for Paris medalists at Buckingham Palace. Team GB and Paralympics GB athletes were jointly hosted at a reception at the royal residence on Thursday to meet the King. Zach Shaw, a Paralympic sprinter, said he had trawled through his emails to find an invite to the after-party, but neither him nor his partner, also a Paralympic sprinter, could find an invite. Shaw won silver in the mixed 4x100 metres and bronze in the 100 metres T12 in Paris, and says it was hurtful and unfair and an example of how the two sets of athletes are treated differently. Now, Sir Mark Cavendish has announced his retirement, saying Sunday's Singapore Criterium will be his final race as his professional cycling career. The Tour de France record breaker received his knighthood last month and finished this season with a record-breaking 35th career in Tour de Stage, which won, and saying he was likely it would be his last race. But after receiving his knighthood from the Prince of Wales at Windsor Castle on the 2nd of October, he said it will be really nice to race as a Knight Commander. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome to GB News. Now, before we get to everything, I wanted us to cross over live because Reform UK's South West Press Conference is happening, where their leader, Nigel Farage, is speaking.
To go out and peacefully protest, don't you? And yet, And yet, the National Farmers Union have said no. No, we don't want too many of you to come to London. I simply can't believe that the National Farmers Union are not standing up and saying to farmers, come in your thousands to London. Let us help protect the beautiful English countryside. Let us protect what we know and understand. In fact, I'm beginning to think that the initials NFU might stand for something different. I'll leave it there for the moment. I don't want to get into trouble. And the other big thing for the Southwest, of course, was fishing. The biggest fishing industry in England is, of course, in Devon and Cornwall. And what has happened since Brexit, under a Conservative government, is that our under 10-metre inshore sustainable fishermen in Brixham, in New Lynn, all around the southwest of England now face more regulation, more bureaucracy than they did even as members of the European Union. And there are more French and Belgian boats fishing up to 6 miles of our coast than there were even before we voted to leave. Ladies and gentlemen, the Southwest that voted Brexit has been betrayed and Labour parties. We have been let down and we've had enough. They can tell us what they want. Kemi, the new Tory leader, with her shadow cabinet of nondescripts, can tell us what they want. They let us down for 14 years. They broke manifesto promise after manifesto promise. We don't trust them. We can see how bad Labour is. The time has come for a new political force in this country that stands up for its fishermen, that stands up for its farmers, that stands up for free speech, that stands up for controlling its borders, that stands up for decency, that stands up for who we are as a nation, that stands up for all of our traditions, that believes in the British people, that believes in who we are. And we believe in those things. We also believe, optimistically, that we can win power and turn this all around. I've had enough of this acceptance of economic decline as our nation sinks deeper into debt, as individually we get poorer, as we have. I've had enough of promises being broken. They'd reduce immigration to tens of thousands a year, and 1.5 million net came in the last 2 years of the Conservative government. The population explosion is being felt by you here in the Southwest. Just look at the house building. Just look at the house prices. Just look at the access to GP services. Just look at the traffic in South Devon on almost any day of the year. And you can see the massive increase in population is diminishing our quality of life. And then when it comes to these charming young men, some of whom have publicly threatened to kill me, but that seems to be fine. When it comes to these charming young men crossing the English Channel, now about 140,000 that have come, promise after promise from the Conservatives that they'd stop the boats. Promises by Labour that they'll smash the gangs. And yet what has happened is the post-war settlement of the European Convention.
All right, so that's Nigel Farage addressing party members. Yeah, I mean, look, this feels that is the direction of things to come, doesn't it? Well, joining me now is the chair of Republicans Overseas, Greg Svensson. Greg, first of all, do you feel that, you know, obviously with the Trump win, there's a lot of people on the left who are, like, howling like banshees because they're not happy with it, which is hilarious. And, of course, Nigel there talking about us taking back control in a sense. Do you feel that actually the UK is next?
Yeah, I hope so, anyway. I mean, it's kind of almost like in reverse, right? We had Brexit in 2016. That was right before Trump's first victory, and it kind of was a leading indicator of it. And the rest of the continent is moving right. We just had the misfortune of 14 years of the Tory rule. So, but I do think the undercurrent is there to move to the right. That's why Nigel and Reform are doing so well. So it's the same movement that we saw in the U.S. Culminating with the win on Tuesday.
And a lot of the press that we heard was, oh, you know, Kamala and Donald Trump are neck and neck, and it's a tight race. It wasn't. It was a landslide.
Yeah.
It's not utter landslide. Nobody wanted it, and he also won the popular vote.
Yeah, by 1.5 points at least. And look at the Senate races. I mean, we picked up more than expected. It was supposed to be 51, a pickup of 2. And it looks like 54 or 53 at least. Maybe we sneak another one in there. But you know, this was a real movement in the U.S. Every county in America, you know, Kamala did worse than Biden did in 2020. So this is just really a rebellion against the Democrats' insanity with the the wokeness and the progressive left policies and issues that just weren't connecting at all with Americans. And they just said no.
And it does seem odd, though, that in this country there seem to be broadcasters and people, you know, like in America, Oprah, and a list of celebrities who can't quite get with the programme and don't understand why this has happened.
It didn't work, first of all, and it rarely does. But I think it also showed the complete disconnect between those celebrities and the people in the media in the U.S. and the people. And, you know, the first question I got from the BBC and others this week, whenever I appeared after the election, was, you know, how could you vote for a man who did X? And instead of saying, you know, why, you know, what were the issues that really made people come out and vote? And of course, my response was that kind of condescending question is exactly why Trump won so comfortably.
Yeah.
Because they were repelling voters. They weren't just criticizing. It's one thing to criticize your opponent. That's politics. That's fair. But they criticized the voters.
The electorate.
And it's 50% of the country. You know, Trump is at 50 right now. He might end up higher, a bit higher or lower, but it's 3 points higher than his absolute peak. And that's an indication not just of his popularity, but more of the unpopularity of these radical progressive lefts.
Isn't this good for the UK, though? I mean, a lot of people, again, complaining. I'm thinking, why would you complain? He wants to work with us. Joe Biden didn't.
No, this is a great moment. I mean, Biden was practically hostile to the UK. He surely wasn't a friend of the UK. And he always, you know, leaned on the EU and Ireland as opposed to, you know, nurturing the special relationship and this fantastic, you know, alliance between the two countries. Trump is all over that. And he doesn't care whether it's Keir Starmer or anyone else. He is a believer in the UK. This could be a great opportunity for Keir, actually.
Well, I think he might care about David Lammy.
Yeah, there might be a little scar tissue on that one.
I'm afraid I don't think...
Dead man walking.
Yeah, I don't think Trump will want to negotiate with him, and I don't blame him. No. But let's have a chat with the former Labour spokesperson, James Matthewson, who may have a different view. James Matthewson, this is surely a great day for the UK, that we have a president-elect who wants to work with the United Kingdom. I mean, Joe Biden didn't look like he did. He wasn't happy in Ireland and all the other stuff. So isn't this surely good for the UK, a Trump win?
Depends how you define good. There's trade deals, there's economic benefits, there's all sorts of things like that you can assess. And then there's values, isn't there? And our values as a country, to me, seem to be the antithesis of the values that Donald Trump has continually parroted and put out. You know, the people who he surrounds himself with, the people who are close to him, the kind of policies that he's talked about implementing. We'll see what he does in power, of course. We saw some of what he did last time, but we know the way the man acts and we can only take him at his word. And those words seem to be the complete opposite of what Britain's about to me.
Really? For values, which values do you feel that he doesn't share, and how did he act that made you feel that he really wasn't, you know, right for the UK?
Well, he's a legally defined sexual predator, so we can start there. The man is a legally defined sexual predator. In England and Wales alone, every day there are over 2,000 women who are raped and sexually assaulted.
But Stormy, can I just hold on a second? Because, well, the implication is that he hasn't raped anybody. I mean, these were two consenting adults. Well, he hasn't actually. I mean, where is he hasn't raped someone?
Sorry, you know that, do you?
No, but you don't.
But
you don't. No, all I'm saying is you don't know that. So the thing with Stormy Daniels.
What I've told you is that he's a legally defined sexual predator. Is that incorrect?
But then you were talking about rape as well. So I'm just making sure those things aren't correlated.
Sorry, I'm talking about sexual assault and rape. I'm talking about women is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Trump being a danger to women and the fact that women that I know right now in the US who are absolutely terrified, because even women who, have families who are Republicans, who have been Republicans their entire lives, are seeing their rights systematically stripped away. And to have somebody sitting on your panel there who's saying, we would like to see that emulated in the UK. We would like to, We'd like to see women's rights stripped back.
I'm presuming you're talking about Roe versus Wade and the fact that in there they'd be able to have an abortion even up beyond 24 weeks. I mean, as much as I respect, the woman's right to choose, I think that when the child... Sorry, I did listen, and I'm just coming back on you with that one. In my view, there is a point at which the abortion shouldn't really be had. And I think in the Democrats' America, it would be at any time up till the time the child is born.
That's incorrect. You've just... Where did you get that evidence from?
You said I'm wrong. Let's just ask Greg Svensson, because he's here. I think I'm right. Am I wrong?
The chair of Republicans
I'm just going to ask...
You're going to ask him what the Democrats...
No, because you said I'm wrong about that with regard to Roe versus Wade. I'm right, aren't I?
Right, and so what Kamala was advocating was taxpayer-funded up until birth, which, by the way, polls at 13% in the U.S. In the UK, that polls at 16%. So you talk about values. Trump's abortion policy, the Republican Party platform, is pretty consistent with Western Europe. Netherlands and the UK is a little higher, 24 weeks. Everybody else is in that 9 to 14 weeks. So what they're advocating is not what they've argued for in the past. It used to be the party of safe, legal, and rare. Now it's the party of up until birth, taxpayer-funded. It's a different party than it used to be.
Sorry, James, I just needed to get that clarified. So that's...
Well, that's wonderful. You've got clarification from the chair of Republicans overseas on a Democrat policy.
That's just fact.
No, he's only giving me facts. This is not... These are facts. So
he's only giving you facts, is he? He's only giving you facts. Yeah, I'm not giving you facts.
No, listen, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about him. You made a statement, so I just wanted to check because I made a statement. I wanted to make sure James, listen, people are listening on radio. We won't get anywhere if we just talk all over each other. All I did was clarifying. Sorry, I was just clarifying the abortion limit with regard to the Democrats and their policy. That's all. Sorry, carry on.
Okay, well, what you said was wrong, but we'll move on from it. I will continue on the point that I was making about values anyway, and that what Donald Trump represents, what he talks about, the people he surrounded himself with, the language that he's used. This is a man who has mocked disabled people. It's a man who has mocked transgender people. It is a man who has mocked basically every group of people who are vulnerable in our society, who we have as a society have a right to protect and defend. My friends who are LGBT in America, my friends who are women in America, they are absolutely terrified right now.
Listen, James, you are listing things with no backup at all. And every time I challenge you, then tell me that I'm making things up. I'm not making things up. And I've even given you somebody... You're talking at the same time as me, so we will not get anything done. So it's up to you. If you want to talk at the same time as me, then we're going to have to end it now, because no one can hear either of us. Yeah?
I'm on a video link, so there is a delay in it. What I'm trying to say is that point by point, I will go through and explain all of that if you want to. Go for it. He mocked disabled people. He mocked a disabled reporter. He impersonated him physically and verbally.
Well, OK, let's talk about David Lammy, calling him a neo-Nazi, sympathising sociopath.
I'm not talk about David Lammy.
You take these things slightly out of context, and then he may have been silly or whatever. But that's not really.
If every time you come to something if every time you come to something Donald Trump has said, you say it was out of context, it was silly, it was a mistake.
Every time
you come to the chair of Republicans overseas, you say that what he's saying is factual. That is not journalism, Nana. That's not
okay, well, I'm sure... Listen, I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm pretty sure I know what journalism is. But thank you for your thoughts, James Mathewson. Really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. It's not journalism. It's not journalism, people. Says James Mathewson. All right, fair enough. Well, I'll take that on the chin. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, it's funny that the Trump derangement syndrome
was happening to James there.
It's alive and well. And I found it interesting that he talks about these values. And first of all, Kamala was dishonest by saying, I'm going to preserve Roe v. Wade and codify it. She can't, and she couldn't have even if she won. It's done at the state level, so that's just a myth, first of all. And then, of course, you know, what she's advocating for, she was pretty honest about it. Like, she didn't deny. Whenever I say to someone, is up until birth taxpayer funded? Not true? No, they don't come back on that. And also, the other funny thing you talk about, he's a rapist and he's a misogynist. It was a bookkeeping entry violation.
Well, that's what I said. Stormy Daniels, they're two consenting adults.
Yeah,
if whatever happened one wasn't happy with what happened, whatever, they both consented to it. So
yeah, absolutely. And you know, and look, the bar, I wouldn't say was lowered, but it was changed 30 years ago with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky in the White House, by the way, in the Oval Office. So I mean, it's just funny that they always talk about the misogynist, and meanwhile, look at the women that he's surrounded by. They're like absolute overachievers. It's fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Greg Saxon. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
and also to James Matthewson. Right. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up at 3:40, royal biographer Andrew Levin will be live to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. Next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is a win with Trump good for Britain? This is GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recruiters are warning that if you're not tech savvy, you could be missing out with your CV failing to make it through an AI-powered sifting process. So we've gone from sort of computer says no HR people ticking boxes to AI, right? Is that right?
Yes, well, this applies once you're in the job as well, as a recent report revealed that employees expect AI will manage an average of a third of their tasks within the next 12 months. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Cosmo Curry, founder of Van Kuysen, a leading company in technology recruitment.
Morning, Cosmo.
Morning.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Van.
Well, yeah, thank you for joining us. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because AI is, of course, on the rise and now in the workplace and in universities and things. Another article came to mind. There was a student recently, I think it was in the news just the other day, that got in trouble for using AI. So there's, you know, for exam purposes and essays. So there's lots of different ways that it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But you're, of course, here to talk about the ways in which AI is a good thing within the workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is here to stay, for sure. And we're seeing this rise of people using it in such a clever format. And the other side of it is also we're seeing people who are using it and during the process of that, they are losing their character. We're losing the actual insight into the individual behind that. And so we've kind of got this kind of mix. And I think AI is phenomenal when you're looking at it from a point of view of optimization, point of view of speed, getting results. But I think we have to remember that, you know, the fundamental of recruitment is people. And we cannot substitute the people, the personal aspect, by replacing that with AI.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello, good afternoon. 26 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, is a Trump win good for Britain. I don't know why I can't say that. I came up with it. What do you think? The return of President Trump to the White House is likely to test the special relationship with differences over climate change, Ukraine and trade. However, it has been said that Trump is likely to prefer Britain over the EU because of his sympathy for Brexit. Obviously, he has a very good friendship with Nigel Farage, so that will help Keir Starmer. Will he take advantage of it? Who knows? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is a Trump win good for Britain? Yes, I got there. Right, well, joining me to discuss, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Right, I'm going to start with you, Norman Baker. Is a Trump win good for the United Kingdom?
I don't think it is. And this isn't about whether you support Trump or whether you don't support Trump. It's about how he's going to approach his job as president. It's America first, all the way through for Donald Trump. I don't think it's very much in a way of sentimentality towards the UK or anyone else.
What's wrong with that? I mean, he's American.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying the consequence for the UK is a difficult one because, you know, I wasn't a great fan of Biden, but he had this historic link of the special relationship in his head, which I don't think Trump does in the same way. So I think there's difficulty with America first. Secondly, I think there's going to be issues with trade. Boris Johnson wants to try and get a trade deal with him first time round, and he couldn't get one. And the deal was, Trump was very insistent we had American food imports, which of course are of a lower standard than our food over here.
But Boris wasn't there that long, and also you don't have to buy the American food. Do you know what I mean? So the consumer ultimately has choice.
Well, the consumer, I mean, so I can only say what
the food, we don't. Do you know what I mean? It's not being forced on you and force-fed.
No, it's not force-fed. It might be labelled properly, but labelled properly.
It will be labelled properly.
But the National Farmers Union and the public at large were very keen not to have American hormone beef and everything else. That came out quite clearly in terms of public opinion polling, for example. Thirdly, he's apparently threatening to withhold security intelligence from the UK government if he doesn't get his own way on certain issues. And it was quite hard work.
That could be sort of seen as bargaining. I mean, we've had to do sort of bartering with the EU as well with regard to security, so that's pretty standard, don't you think?
I don't think it's ever been threatened before. The security exchange, which has taken place between the UK and the US since 1945, has been very strong and has actually survived whatever prime minister you've had, whatever president you've had. So for a president to allegedly, we don't know it's true, but it's been said in the papers, to put this in the mix and say, I'm prepared to withhold information unless you give me ABC, is a new thing. So on balance, I think, whatever you think about Trump, I don't think it's good for the UK.
I don't think it's good for the UK. Lizzie Cundy.
Well, I totally disagree with you. I think having Trump as president is going to be fantastic for the UK. He obviously loves us. I don't know whether you saw the recent footage, him looking at pictures of him with our late Queen and the royal family. He was absolutely chuffed to bits to be there, and he absolutely loves this country, unlike Biden, that when he visited, if you remember, he was all about Ireland and really didn't give us, a look. I have to say, he wants to build this relationship, this special relationship he does have with the UK, sharing intelligence, with the exports and everything else. And I think it can only be a good thing that Trump is our president. The only worry we have
obviously
is
the American president.
The American president, but obviously the worry is with Keir Starmer and his comments and the comments of the Labour Party that Lammy so stupidly and short-sightedly.
Well, I think we're coming on to that now, are we not? But I mean, the reality is that in the last we know how it's going to be to some extent because he was there for 4 years before Donald Trump, and he was very hard work for the government of the day, which was actually a Conservative government, and the Conservatives were more of his in terms of philosophy. And he has said that he doesn't like the Labour Party. He regards them as far left. I don't particularly like the Labour Party either, but I don't think they're far left. But anyway...
Well, some of them are, I mean...
Well, the issue is that he's got to deal with a party over here, or we've got to deal with him, who are political polar opposites in some ways. Now, that's never a good thing to have to deal with. Blair and Bush was quite tricky when they were in together. And the same with when you have a Conservative Prime Minister and a Democrat President. These are more challenging times. So I think it's a big uphill struggle, and I don't think what happened between 2016 and 2020 is a very good precedent, because, yes, he liked the royal family, but he didn't necessarily like the politics.
But what about the fact that he's able to negotiate with some interesting people, like Vladimir Putin wants to talk to him, King Jong-un wants to talk to him. Yeah. None of them want to talk to Keir Starmer. None of them appear to be remotely interested.
Of course, because...
And that's got to be good for... I mean, the Middle East was stable when he was president important, and we need a stable Middle East.
Well,
the Middle Eastern leaders are pleased about it.
I'm not sure it was stable, but I mean, look, I mean, the fact of the matter is that Britain is not particularly important compared to America and China and Russia. They are the three countries that are important.
The fact is, under Donald Trump's watch, there were no wars. He doesn't want war.
Or he didn't
start any, no. And he said quite openly that he wants to stop these wars. And, you know, he's already, there's words from Hamas that are looking for a ceasefire and stopping the war.
Well,
whether you like it or not, because he is on better terms with Putin, that can only be a good thing in some ways, that we can stop these terrible wars.
Well,
no one wants these wars. Under
nobody
Trump,
does.
I believe they will be stopped.
Well, it depends how you're going to stop them, because if you're going to stop them by forcing Ukraine to give away its independence to Russia, that's not a good result.
Well, at least the war has stopped and people aren't dying. But what the result will be, who knows? We don't know that. But the bottom line is he feels he can stop them, and I would rather see them stopped. I really would.
Who does he like, Trump? I mean, this worries me. He likes Vladimir Putin, he likes Xi Jinping, he likes the guy in North Korea.
Well, listen,
these are all dictators.
No, they are dictators. They also lead countries, so you have to work with people that you don't like.
And he doesn't like war, and the main thing, we stop these wars. That's what everyone wants.
It's costing everyone a fortune, and also lots of lives are being lost. But anyway, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Fast approaching 33 minutes after 3 o'clock. Coming up, the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should David Lammy apologise to Donald Trump? But first, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. It's 3:33. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. Your top story this hour, the Queen will miss remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. A palace spokesperson has said while this is a source of great disappointment to the Queen, she will mark the occasion privately at home and hopes to return to public duties early next week. This comes as Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would attend both the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph and the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall tonight. Boris Johnson has suggested that Donald Trump would certainly do a trade deal with the UK. The former Prime Minister said the US President-elect is offering economic hope, but that the government would be too pathetic to try to secure a deal. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage said the UK needs to roll out the red carpet for Trump and that America is our most important relationship in terms of trade. Farage also said he would help mend fences between Sir Keir Starmer's government and the incoming Trump administration following tensions over previous comments. Now, the Deputy President of the National Farmers Union, David Exwood, has said there's many things wrong with the budget and it's threatened food supplies. This comes as farmers are planning a protest in central London on the 19th of November. It's in response to Rachel Reeves' changes to inheritance tax on farmers. Speaking at the Lord Mayor's show today, Mr Exwood told GB News about how the NFU are feeling.
NFU is representing farmers in the way it does best by working on how to change MP's mind. And there's many ways of doing that, and we will keep doing that. And everybody wants to play their part. Again, farmers are united and they're determined. I want to be really clear about this. We know how we feel about it. We know the value of what we do, and we have got to bring that to the government, because this isn't just about tax. This is actually about backing British farming. And again, that's what we're going to do today. Send out a message about the importance of farming, the value we bring to the country, and how we want everybody to get behind farmers. We have to do that. There's no choice.
In other news now, 17 people have been taken to hospital after a crash involving 2 double-decker buses in Manchester. The accident happened this morning near the junction of Rochdale Road and Livesey Street on the edge of the city centre. 9 ambulances, an air ambulance, 2 response vehicles and an advanced paramedic were sent to the scene. We will bring you more as we get it. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good
afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a gloomy few days, it does look like changes on the way as we head into next week, but the next couple of days still remaining quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Thanks to these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK, they'll be slowly pushing their way eastwards through the rest of today and into tomorrow. That does mean quite a cloudy end to the day for most of us today. Northern and western parts of Scotland seeing some clearer spells to end the day, and that's slowly pushing its way north and eastwards as we go through the early hours of Sunday morning. We do see a weather front arriving though from the northwest overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. Quite a mild night, particularly across southern and western areas where we see that thicker cloud. However, anywhere that does see those clearer spells could be turning a little chilly with temperatures in the low single figures. So starting the day on Sunday then, across the southern and western parts of the UK, there will be some patchy clear spells around, and that could lead to the odd patch of mist and fog in places, but generally quite a cloudy and grey start to the day. Quite a damp start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but it's western parts of Scotland that will see the dampest start to the day. Some outbreaks of heavy rain across western parts of Scotland, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the morning. Eastern parts of Scotland, though, perhaps a bit of a brighter start. Through Sunday morning, though, that weather front then pushes its way eastwards as we go through the day, kind of fizzling out as it does so generally turning a little bit lighter. Parts of southern and eastern England, South Wales, southwest England, perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start of Monday, but for most of us, Monday and Tuesday do look a bit brighter and temperatures will generally be staying around about average for the time of year.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 39 minutes after 3 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's fair enough, though. It's at the beginning of the show, so I forgive you. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should David Lammy apologise to Donald Trump? The Foreign Secretary, in 2018, as a backbench MP, described President-elect as a tyrant and a woman-hating, neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath. He said that this is old news and says that he will be able to find common ground with Donald Trump. But is this really just old news, or should he issue an apology to the President-elect? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, what do you think? Should David Lammy apologise to Donald Trump? Joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Right, I'm going to start with you, Lizzie Cundy. Should he apologise?
Yes.
Old news.
Oh, Lammy should apologise. He is the supreme potty mouth, isn't he? I mean, his idea of being a foreign secretary is to greet the heads of state in grubby, dirty trainers, and then he goes and puts his foot in his mouth with one of them. He really is diabolical. I think what he said is short-sighted, is actually amateurish, and I just think he should be totally ashamed of himself. Of course he should apologise, and in fact, I think he should resign, because I think what he's done is so damaging to the relationship, this special relationship we do have with America. I don't know how he can go on in that position. He really, truly backed the wrong horse, the Labour government, didn't they? I mean, sending all their staff over to the States to campaign against Donald Trump. I mean, how embarrassing. I just think they've all done totally the wrong thing and misread the whole room.
It seems a lack of foresight. What do you think, Norman Baker?
Well, I mean, it was very unwise for him to have said that. And
It's an awful thing to say.
It's a bit over the top, to be perfectly frank with you. Even if you don't like Trump, it's a bit over the top. I mean, I don't like Trump, but he's not a neo-Nazi. That's completely wrong. So, but the fact of the matter is that David Lammy is he's there because he's been appointed by Keir Starmer. So Keir Starmer's made him the Foreign Secretary. I don't happen to rate David Lammy personally. I don't think he's a particularly good Foreign Secretary. You've got to have gravitas to be able to go abroad and to talk to leaders of nations and convince them that the UK's position is one that he should support. I'm not sure he's in a position to do that. Should he apologise? Well, if they were his honest views, then I don't think he probably should, because, I mean, that's his view. I mean, I think there's quite an apology culture.
But you can't just... that's abusive language, OK? So as a politician, you can't just churn out abusive language and then somebody says, well, if that's your view, that's fine.
Well, people do.
There has to be some comeback on that. If you're going to use that kind of language, then you must be reprimanded. This cannot be allowed.
Well, I mean, he didn't say it's Foreign Secretary, to be fair to him. He didn't say it's Foreign Secretary. He said it was about Bencher without knowing he'd be Foreign Secretary.
But that's not the point. But even so, the language, though, language matters, and that's abusive.
Of course it matters.
If I was to call you that, whether I'm this, that or other, or at any point, you would find that unforgivable.
Well, I wouldn't find it unforgivable. I'll forgive you, Nana, for things you might say to me. But I mean...
give it a go, then.
You should have heard what she said about that suit.
I love that suit.
Look, in terms of what happened, he was unwise to have said that, but he was appointed as Foreign Secretary by Starmer. Starmer's the person who's responsible for making him in that position. But look, the other thing I want to say this in general is this. I'm not a great fan of this kind of apology culture that we've got. When people, whenever they do say something, people say, you should apologise for this, you should apologise for that, we should apologise for slavery, apologise for something else. You know, I don't believe in that. And if he sincerely holds those views, I think he's wrong, but if he sincerely holds those views, he's entitled to those views.
If he's changed his mind, he should apologise.
Norman, words matter. And when you're in a position that he is, you have to think before you do a tweet.
Well, he said it before.
I do, Nana does. You think before you do that. It's totally short-sighted of him. And I'm sorry, he's like a bat wearing some of Keir Starmer's freebie glasses. Honestly, he really needs to go. I don't think he can continue in this position. I think he's totally lost all credibility. And for me, Lammy is becoming a laughing stock.
Well,
he's a joke.
Do you remember Zippy? Do you remember Zippy from Rainbow? Up above the streets and houses.
Vaguely,
that thing with the zip, he reminds me of that.
Yeah, but he can't zip it. But sadly, he's not on his own, is he? There are others that have also. We've got Rayner, we've got Wes Streeton, we've got even our own Prime Minister have said really insulting things about Donald Trump. The Labour Party are a total embarrassment, and now they didn't expect Trump to be President. So what are they going to do?
Well,
it's going to be totally embarrassing.
To be fair to Starmer, I can't believe I'm defending Starmer, but to be fair to Starmer, before the presidential election, he took trouble to go and see Trump and have a sit down with him and try to make sure that they were on an even keel, which was a sensible thing for a Prime Minister.
Well, that was just after he'd sent some staff over, some of his staff went over to support the Democrats.
Well, they say, the Labour Party says, that they went voluntarily in their own time and they weren't signed with the Labour Party. But Starmer actually went to see Trump before the presidential election, which was the right thing to do. As far as Lammy's concerned, you know, I don't think he's a great Foreign Secretary.
No,
but untenable.
Because they realised they were backing the wrong horse, and now it's embarrassing. They look two-faced, and they're cringingly bowing with their cap in hand, thinking, "Oh dear," But they need to, as Nigel Farage said, roll the red carpet out for Donald Trump, and I think all of them should apologise.
Can I just make one last point?
Well, I'll make it quickly because you've got 10 seconds.
OK. I mean, words matter, you said. I totally agree with that. Being two-faced is wrong. But if Lammy apologised, he would be two-faced. Could he apologise for something he doesn't believe in?
He should resign.
Well, then, if he still believes that, then he shouldn't really be... He's not fit to hold the office of Foreign Secretary, that's what I think. But, because it's wrong, isn't it? He's not really a neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath. It's a big call to call someone that, isn't it, really? But next, coming up, Angela Levin will be here to give us the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, Prince William, who has opened up about his very difficult year. Stay tuned.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security. You know, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. It's just fast approaching 48 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown. And who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin? She joins me now. Angela, welcome. We miss you. We'd love you to be here, but yellow looks good on you. So here we are.
Is that my compensation?
Yeah, you look great. So we start with Prince William, because he's opening up for the first time about how awful the year has been for him because of obviously Catherine and his father.
It's very interesting because he doesn't like any journalist who might say to him, "How are you?" or "How is your wife?" or anything like that. He likes it to be very secret. He doesn't want to tell, especially journalists. And then he just bursts open with the most amazing and touching what he feels about life and what he's had in this last year. It's been dreadful, the hardest year of his life, trying to keep on track with his responsibilities and also his wife and his children. But on the other hand, he's very proud of his father, very proud of his wife. But from a family point of view, he said, it's been brutal. And your heart can't go out to him. And people said, other journalists who were there said to him, "Oh, well, you seem in marvellous form now." And he said, No, don't think it. I'm just, doing my job. He's in South Africa for the Earthshot. And he covered up what he meant. And it just fell out. And my heart went out to him. It was just extremely moving, I think. Extremely moving that he had all this, two loving family members. And I think, that Harry should be, as his brother, Harry should be ashamed of himself by keeping on and being rude and trying to make his life very difficult and criticising him. I think, you know, when you have somebody who's dealing with that sort of responsibility, then you do your best to keep out of the way if you don't get on. You don't,
Harry hasn't helped much, has he? His brother or his father, has he? He should be. I agree with you. He should be ashamed of himself.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, with the, you know, he's demanded he was seen, you know, so his father can't speak to him because he can't trust him, and you can't actually allow him to talk to his son even, because if they talk at all, then Harry can go off and say to his lawyers, oh, he's talking to me, he said this. And it can change the whole attitude of him trying to deal with the government. And the government is part of the responsibility of King Charles.
Well, let's move on to Harry, though, because he's now running scared because of Trump. Trump has been, you know, interested in the whole visa situation.
Yes, well, I have no doubt that Trump will get it open up and let everybody know what it is. And if he has lied in it, he will absolutely take action. But Trump's son has said that he couldn't care less about him because they think both he and Meghan are nothing and not worth doing anything about. So, you know, there is a sort of, I want to get rid of him, but maybe I shouldn't bother. I've got 3,000 other things to do. And I think that's right. I mean, we saw pictures of Harry and Meghan wearing a poppy and talking about how important it was for children not to be moved into terrible areas by sort of all the things that you do on computer. I mean, they're totally against that. But why did they do that just the day that William was coming back? I mean, they're very careful. They don't just do things just because. It's all planned very carefully. So there they are. And tonight you've got the British Legion Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall, and it's wonderful that Princess Catherine will be there. And they usually have, you know, evening dress, so it'll be wonderful to see her looking lovely. The Queen can't come. She's not well enough yet. She's still at her own home, Ray Mill. And she's supposed to be okay next week, but she's obviously not too well. They say they don't want to give it to anyone else. The doctors have told her. But on the other hand, she's still got something, you know, she's still not at the end of whatever it is. She's not well. I think there's so much rain where they were, and they did so much that is exhausting. And she's 77 and very active, but that's you're more vulnerable of catching illnesses, I'm afraid.
Well, also she's got to be careful because the king has cancer, so they need to sort of keep him away because they may have, you know, he may have a compromised immune system. But Angela, we're running out of time. So it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. That is the brilliant Angela Levin. Angela Levin. She's our royal biographer. Right, well, stay with me because next, my niggle on the Liberal left's meltdown over Donald Trump's decisive election victory. Stay with me for that. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a gloomy few days, it does look like changes on the way as we head into next week, but the next couple of days still remaining quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Thanks to these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK, they'll be slowly pushing their way eastwards through the rest of today and into tomorrow. That does mean quite a cloudy end to the day for most of us today. Northern and western parts of Scotland seeing some clearer spells to end the day, and that's slowly pushing its way north and eastwards as we go through the early hours of Sunday morning. We do see a weather front arriving though from the northwest overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. Quite a mild night, particularly across southern and western areas where we see that thicker cloud. However, anywhere that does see those clearer spells could be turning a little chilly with temperatures in the low single figures. So starting the day on Sunday then, across the southern and western parts of the UK, there will be some patchy clear spells around, and that could lead to the odd patch of mist and fog in places, but generally quite a cloudy and grey start to the day. Quite a damp start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but it's western parts of Scotland that will see the dampest start to the day. Some outbreaks of heavy rain across western parts of Scotland, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the morning. Eastern parts of Scotland, though, perhaps a bit of a brighter start. Through Sunday morning, though, that weather front then pushes its way eastwards as we go through the day, kind of fizzling out as it does so generally turning a little bit lighter. Parts of southern and eastern England, South Wales, southwest England, perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start of Monday, but for most of us, Monday and Tuesday do look a bit brighter and temperatures will generally be staying around about average for the time of year.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's only one. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua and it's just gone 4 o'clock. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next hour, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cunliffe and also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Coming up, my niggle, I'll be discussing Donald Trump's decisive and democratic win. He defeated the Democrat Party, his election victory, which has sent the Liberal left into meltdown.
What the hell? You cannot be serious. How did I wake up to this garbage as my president? That's right, garbage.
Oh, you've got to stay tuned for the rest of that. It's hilarious. That's in my niggle. So, is a Trump win good for Britain? He's very likely to disagree with the Labour government on many issues, including defence, climate change and trade. But obviously, he sympathises with us for Brexit. So, is a Trump win good for Britain? I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote now. Then, in Difficult Conversations, former British Olympian Fatima Whitbread will be joining me as she launches a new book about her childhood and also how growing up in care has motivated her. That is Difficult Conversations, and as ever we love to go live to Tel Aviv and get Uri Geller's take on the violence in Amsterdam and what a Trump victory means for the Middle East. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. It's just gone 4 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. Your top story this hour, the Queen is set to miss remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. Queen Camilla had hoped to join the royal family at the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance this evening and to honour all of the war dead at the Remembrance Sunday ceremony on Whitehall. This comes as Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would attend both the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph and the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall tonight. Boris Johnson has suggested that Donald Trump would certainly do a trade deal with the UK. The former Prime Minister said the US President-elect is offering economic hope, but that the government would be too pathetic to try to secure a deal. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage said the UK needs to roll out the red carpet for Trump and that America is our most important relationship in terms of trade. Farage also said he would help mend fences between Sir Keir Starmer's government and the incoming Trump administration following tensions over previous comments.
This is a pro-British American president. That gives us potentially huge opportunities if we can overcome the difficulties that the whole of the cabinet have been rude about him. I might be useful as an interlocutor, unofficially, behind the scenes, to try and help mend some of those fences. If the government choose to use me, I would do that, not because I support the Labour government, but because I believe in something called the national interest.
In other news, Iran has rejected a report it was behind an alleged plot to assassinate Donald Trump, calling it a repulsive claim to complicate matters between Iran and America. This comes as the US has charged an Iranian man in connection with an alleged plot to assassinate Trump ahead of the election. The department described him as an Iranian asset residing in Tehran. It said he immigrated to the US as a child and was deported in 2008 following a robbery conviction. Back in the UK, the Deputy President of the NFU, David Exwood, has said there's many things wrong with the budget and it's threatened food supplies. This comes as farmers are planning a protest in central London on the 19th of November in response to Rachel Reeves' changes to inheritance tax on farmers. Speaking at the Lord Mayor's show today, Mr Exwood told GB News about how the NFU are feeling.
NFU is representing farmers in the way it does best by working on how to change MP's mind. And there's many ways of doing that, and we will keep doing that. And everybody wants to play their part. Again, farmers are united and they're determined. I want to be really clear about this. We know how we feel about it. We know the value of what we do, and we have got to bring that to the government, because this isn't just about tax. This is actually about backing British farming. And again, that's what we're going to do today. Send out a message about the importance of farming, the value we bring to the country, and how we want everybody to get behind farmers. We have to do that. There's no choice.
To Manchester now, where 17 people have been taken to hospital after a crash involving 2 double-decker buses. The accident happened this morning near the junction of Rochdale Road and Livesey Street on the edge of the city centre. 9 ambulances, an air ambulance, 2 response vehicles and an advanced paramedic were sent to the scene. And Sir Mark Cavendish has announced his retirement, saying Sunday's Singapore Criterium will be his final race of his professional cycling career. The Tour de France record breaker received his knighthood last month and finished this season with a record-breaking 35th career Tour stage win in what he says would be likely his last race. But after receiving his knighthood from the Prince of Wales at Windsor Castle on the 2nd of October, he said it will be really nice to race as a Knight Commander. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Donald Trump is now the new leader of the United States. Democracy in action. But the Democrats and the liberal left don't like it.
What the hell? You cannot be serious. How did I wake up to this garbage as my president? That's right, garbage. I went to bed last night and she was ahead. I woke up to this freaking nightmare. Donald Trump? How? Does America have this many Nazi, Hitler-following pieces of trash? I thought America was already great.
I think he was serious as well. People on the left like Emily Maitlis who simply couldn't handle it.
When Donald Trump talked about the eating cats and dogs, half of America was just thinking, this is bad. I can't believe what he's saying. This is going to be the end of him.
Stop swearing. And I will. I mean, I'll tell Emily off later, but because I know she started the swearing. But it may be the middle of the night in Britain, but they're still a little bit sensitive about that stuff.
Some people are trying to say that the Democrats lost because Kamala Harris is black or because she's a woman, like Pablo Ohana on GB News yesterday.
This is, of course, the second time that America has rejected an overqualified woman.
No. It was because of moments like this.
My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
It's not funny, is it? And celebrities like Alec Baldwin, Whoopi Goldberg, John Lennon, Chrissy Teigen, Rob Reiner, Barbara Streisand, Cher, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Megan Rapinoe, Tom Hanks, Amy Schumer, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Bill Gates, Jane Fonda, Madonna, Mark Ruffalo, Kim Kardashian, Bruce Springsteen, George Clooney, Hunter Biden and Oprah Winfrey. God. The left are obsessed with identity politics, and the people of the US have said no. And I suspect this rejection is coming to the UK. We don't want to be teaching issues relating to gender in our schools and appeasing confused young people going through puberty with whether their biology matches transient gender stereotypes. We are open-minded and most of us are liberal thinking, but we do not believe a man can become a woman or vice versa and pushing surgery on kids. I don't want critical race theories forced down my neck. Just because someone is black doesn't mean that they will support it. And if someone is an immigrant, it doesn't mean that they'll be happy with illegal migration. In fact, most immigrants jumped through legal hoops to get here. It's even more infuriating watching people being given handouts for breaking the law, especially if you didn't. My mother, she's furious with it. She goes, these people are coming here by dinghy, And then she sucks her teeth. I mean, the problem with the woke liberal elite, the hashtag Be Kind Brigade, is that there is an assumption that just because you're an ethnic minority or working class or gay or some other quality they believe belongs to their class, that you will immediately gravitate towards them.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Exactly. You see, their politics is based on identity, and that is a big mistake. If the left in this country continue with the politics of envy, distinguishing the public sector from the private sector, and with their NI hike and diving into state schools and dividing, state schools from independent schools and black from white, Donald Trump not only won the political vote, he won the popular one as well. So no matter what colour you are, your sexual orientation or political class, people care about the economy. Money talks and BS walks. So before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should pro-Palestine marches be banned on Remembrance Sunday? Protests in Birmingham are set to take to the streets tomorrow in their protest, which coincides with Armistice Day, where the nation comes together to pay its respects to war veterans. Is this warranted or completely disrespectful to our great veterans? And in the Pulse, I'll be joined by Dr. René Hundekamp. As the winter draws close, can we all stay protected from flu? Make sure you're wrapped up and warm. That's coming up in the next hour. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. Well, I'm joined now by Labour activist and writer Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, welcome to the programme. Am I totally wrong? And if I am, why?
It's quite interesting, some of the points you raised. Obviously, so many people, it was a shock. Not many people were expecting Donald Trump to win. Even the polls themselves were saying that Kamala Harris was ahead. She was going to win. It was very tight initially, and then she surged ahead. So a lot of people are obviously understandably upset as well. But no, a lot of the things that people are saying about, well, a lot of the reasons why people are upset at Trump's victories is just the fear and some of the things that he has said on the campaign trail, some of the things that his supporters have said, especially around women's rights and so on. Of course, we have no idea. We can't look into the future. We have no idea in the next few years, 4 years, what an America under Trump is going to be like the second time around. We can predict some of the things that he might do because we've seen him in action. But ultimately, a lot of people are worried and a lot of people are unhappy. And it just seems that American politics will be regressing, and by doing so, taking the rest of the world politics along with it.
You think it's regression, though? Because, look, I suspect, and a lot of people suspected, that maybe the polls were slightly manipulated in a way, where we were all led to believe, or the people there were led to believe, that the thing was tighter than it really was when it wasn't. And, you know, it does... Why? I always wonder why people think that it will be so bad under Trump, when under Joe Biden it's been a disaster, hasn't it, surely?
I think a lot of the things that we can definitely look at, the last 4 years under Biden. Yes, there've been a number of wars. Yes, we've had obviously the Ukraine and Russia war. We've got what's going on in Gaza and Israel right now, and now surrounding countries as well. This is a really worrying time, and as a Muslim myself, I'm appalled to see that America took a backseat. As far as we are concerned, as far as myself and other Muslims are concerned, America should have been a bit more firmer, a bit more stricter and stronger with Israel, and basically brought this horrendous conflict to an end a lot sooner. I think there's a lot of votes there that were lost. A lot of Arabs and Muslims just did not vote. They just refused to vote for Trump, and they refused to vote for Kamala as well. So we don't know. We don't know. There's still, obviously, it's not even a week. And it's not even a week yet to we've had this election outcome. So there's still a massive post-mortem that's being carried out, and there's going to be more sort of fallout from what's happened. So yeah, I think that with Trump in office, he has promised to end the wars. He has promised to sort of bring peace, and he is right. He does have a track record. When he was in office for the 4 years that he was in office, there were no new wars or conflicts that had started under his watch, but there was a lot of conflict within America. Let's not forget, when the election news was announced, how Trump reacted to it. He refused to accept the election news.
But that's not on him refusing to accept that vote. It's happened by many different parties. They're all often doing that. So that why they hyped that up to such a big deal. It's happened quite a few times with the Democrats as well. So that really wasn't the big deal.
And I've got to say that Kamala, when she did eventually come out and give her speech the following day, she literally said, "We will have a peaceful transfer of power." And I think that was so important, because America is so divided right now, and there was a real risk of it kind of descending back to the violence that we saw.
I mean, look, he also won the popular vote, though, so it wasn't just the electoral college votes, it's the popular vote. So it seems that actually the people wanted him in, and it's turned out to be a bit of a landslide. But I notice you also said that America should have been harder on Israel. What do you mean by that?
Well, look, what's going on, it's just unacceptable. The people that have been bombed in Gaza, and now we're seeing almost daily attacks in Lebanon and the surrounding countries. We do not want a regional war. Nobody wants a regional war. We've been fighting for a ceasefire. We want the hostages home, okay? The hostages should have come home. They should never have been taken in the first place. And I've been saying
the whole October 7th was
it should
terrible.
never have happened. Absolutely should never have happened. And I've said this on October the 7th last year, and I've been saying it subsequently. We need to bring the hostages home. We need to end the war. We need to stop the displacement of Palestinians. We need to stop this war effectively spreading and dragging other countries in. And Biden should have taken a stronger stance. He should have called Netanyahu and said, "What is going on? Yes, we know you're upset, but there has to be some kind of limit now."
Well, that's true, but let's not forget that Hamas are still repeatedly firing rockets, and they were even before that date. So and also in Lebanon, they then The Hezbollah then joined with Hamas on the 8th of October and started firing rockets into Israel as well. So those countries surrounding Israel also have to have a responsibility
But who
to
is
stop.
paying for, who is paying for
Let me just finish.
yeah.
Let me get to the end. Let me finish. My point is that those countries also have a responsibility to stop firing rockets too. I mean, it's not just Israel. It's all of those other countries around that are also coming out. I mean, Hamas need to stop firing the rockets, full stop.
Nana, apologies for interrupting you earlier. You're absolutely right. Hezbollah is not a country. Hezbollah is not in charge of Lebanon. It's not the Lebanese government. Hamas is the elected government in Gaza, but they've not had proper elections for the last 2 cycles. So how many people can say that the current population in Gaza have voted for Hamas? Very few, because a lot of the population, they're children. 50-odd% of the population in Gaza are children. They've not voted. They've never voted for Hamas, and they don't want Hamas as their leaders, from what I understand. And
that's why I'm saying that the pressure should be on, more pressure on Hamas to stop. You know, I would like to see the pressure on Hamas. I'd like to see the pressure on Hezbollah.
But we also want to stop. Yeah, we also want to stop the mindless killing of children and women and hospitals and bombing of hospitals and so on.
Everyone wants to stop, but let's be clear. If Israel didn't have the Iron Dome, Israel would have been obliterated by now, and that would have been from Iran and all the other Hezbollah, Hamas, and all of those people. So the only reason why Israel doesn't look like Gaza is because they have an Iron Dome. Because I think sometimes people forget that actually Israel are receiving bombs every single day. They are protected with the Iron Dome, and that's why it's not, that's why everyone's not dead.
I think we've got to point out, Nana, that the amount of weapons and bombs that have fallen on Gaza are hardly tiny. The bombs that Hamas and Hezbollah have been sending over to Israel, again, that's wrong. But the impact and the damage to buildings and the cost of human lives at the cost of the IDF bombs, which have been funded by ourselves in the UK and America, it's just the difference. You cannot even compare the two.
Well, I think I can, because I think Israel are fighting on not just one front, but at least 4. So you've also got Iran. So let's not forget that they tried to obliterate Israel, and they've tried that twice now with ballistic missiles, over 180 ballistic missiles, and so on and so forth. So I hear your I hear what you're saying. Nobody wants the bombs, but let's not forget.
I mean, I could say, look, Israel has gone out of, it's assassinated foreign leaders on foreign soil. There's so many things that all parties have done wrong. As far as I'm concerned, I am literally, you described me as a writer. I'm also a teacher, but I'm also a humanitarian as well. I'm also a human rights campaigner, and I cannot bear to see people living in this situation, whether it's a Palestinian person, whether it's Israel. And I've been to Israel. I absolutely loved my visit to Israel. I have so many friends who are Israeli. I have so many friends who are Jewish, and obviously so many friends who are Palestinian and Arab as well. And nobody wants this war to continue. And I think we've kind of have digressed. We were talking about Trump's victory and so on. And I now feel that maybe with Trump in office now, we'll see what happens. Maybe he is the person to end this war, and maybe he is the person to bring a lasting peace in the Middle East, which is what so many people want.
Exactly. And I just want to get your thoughts on, very briefly, because we're going to talk about this, the pro-Palestine marches. Do you think that they should be banned on Armistice Day, or Remembrance Sunday, just that one day? What do you think?
We had the same conversation last year as well, and I remember saying the same thing. Yeah, we did, that the marches had been rearranged, and so it had been arranged way in advance. And I think, look, last year we had the march, it went ahead, not a problem, very peacefully. But there are elements of people being concerned, elements within the march that might provoke and cause problems. And they do not represent the majority of people who want to march peacefully. And I have organised pro-Palestinian marches myself, and thankfully none of them have ever descended into any kind of violence. So I think, look, we live in the UK. My stock answer is this: we live in the UK. We have every right to protest, and as long as we do it peacefully and with respect. And look, as a history teacher as well, the Armistice Day is such a valuable, such an important day to remind the country of the sacrifices that soldiers made, not just the British soldiers, but the members of the Commonwealth as well. So I think we have to be respectful and mindful of the sacrifices that were made to keep this country the way it is today.
All right. Thank you very much, Aisha. Lovely to talk to you. Aisha Ali Khan. She's a Labour activist and writer. Well, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, 21 minutes after 4 o'clock. Next, the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should pro-Palestine marchers be banned on Remembrance Sunday?
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
We're talking about Gareth Southgate and his proposed Donald. There's a lot of rumours going around saying he's going to get a knighthood. So people like Nana are saying to me, why?
Because he hasn't won anything, has he? Look, I'm not a big fan of football. I watch England and the big matches, but he hasn't won anything. I mean, like, he hasn't actually won anything. He'll be following in the footsteps of people like Sir Alf Ramsey, Sir Bobby Robson, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What has Gareth Southgate actually won?
Right, don't ask me. Let's ask our guests on this. So, has he truly earned the right to do this? Should all England managers, should you become an England manager and then get a knighthood as a result, or is that devaluing the honour? There you see on your screen to debate this, Harry Harris, top football writer, and royal commentator Angela Levin. She knows a thing or two about all of this. Angela, what do you think?
I think absolutely not. I mean, I know he's a good example to people, but he's a sort of almost. He's almost done this. He's almost won that. You can't have someone to have a knighthood if you're an almost. You can't. This is someone who does the most amazing things. This is a hero. This is a serviceman. It's not somebody who does really kindly and looks after his people, and it's just not fun. I think it just diminishes the whole thing of giving people such a high level of gratitude.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 25 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio, and it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should pro-Palestine marchers be banned on Remembrance Sunday? Many veterans have blasted a pro-Palestine march, which is scheduled to take place in Birmingham over the Remembrance weekend. Organisers say the march hopes to mourn the murder of innocent Palestinians, but takes place on Armistice Day, when the nation comes together to pay its respects to war heroes. Many feel that it's a deliberate move, and the council have failed massively on this one. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should pro-Palestine marchers be banned on Remembrance Sunday? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Right, I'm going to start with you, Lizzie Cundy.
I think they totally should be banned, and even the thought of it makes me feel sick to the stomach.
Why?
This is a sacred day. It's a day of remembrance. It's not a political day. They can do these marches, which they've been doing every Saturday. They can do it any other day, but not on this day. And this is a day for us to remember our fallen heroes. I'm remembering my grandfather, who was a colonel, Richard Bretherton, I'll say his name, who we miss and love very much, who fought in the Second World War, was sent to Burma, helped his fellow men escape from Japanese prisons. And it's a moment where you want actual silence. You want to remember those heroes and our current heroes, you know, with quiet peace. This isn't the time or the place, and I think it's absolutely abhorrent. I think it's a disgrace, and I think there needs They need to really look at themselves before they do this. It's not fair and it's not right.
Well, some people might argue that they fought for the right for people to have their freedom of speech. Norman Baker.
Well, look, I think it's distasteful for them to be marching on this particular day. It's a very special day, actually, as has been said. And I also think it doesn't do them any good. I think it actually sets their cause back apart of anything else because it antagonises people unnecessarily. But the question you're asking, Nana, is should it be banned? As a liberal, I'm not in favour of banning things. I think they have a right to go and march if they want to go and march, but I think it's distasteful and I think it's unhelpful to their own cause.
Yeah, that's a good point. But then, but there can be some days where things should not be allowed to happen. Surely.
Well, I'm really reluctant to ban anything. I think that's a last resort.
For that one day.
Well, no, I'm talking about generally in government and in life. I'm not in favour of banning people for doing things. GBNews is very good at not banning things. You always talk about free speech on this channel, quite rightly. Well, there's free speech there. Now, my idea of free speech is people can stand up and say it, and if they got the mood of the public wrong, as I think this will have got the mood of the public wrong, the public will say so.
But Norman, look, we're all for freedom of speech, but with responsibility. This isn't being fair. They know that this is a sacred day for our fallen heroes, which are everywhere. Don't forget, it's the Caribbean community.
Yes,
everyone comes together, and this is a day for us to remember. One day they can do it. Any other day they can do. When we all believe in freedom of speech, but protest with respect and responsibility.
Well, look, I agree it's distasteful, and I agree that it's unwise for them to go ahead, and I find it's regrettable they are doing so. But I don't think we should ban people from doing things in this country. It's very difficult to start banning, because who decides what's banned and what's not banned?
Well, it's a democracy, so...
Yes, exactly.
Democratic mandates for the people, so that's how the laws are shaped as well. So you have freedom of speech within a democracy, and within the law. Yes,
but a democracy, to work properly, a majority always has to respect a minority. That's the key test of a democracy.
Well, but then the majority rules.
Well, the majority decides ultimately, but the majority must not be in a position to dictate to the minority on any particular issue when it's a question of freedom of speech. People must
they wouldn't have freedom of speech if it weren't for our heroes. They wouldn't have that freedom of speech, would they? So maybe they should reflect and look at that. Maybe they should go to Hamas and ask to release the hostages. Then there would be a stop to this. That's maybe what they should do.
Maybe they should reflect on it, but the fact of the matter is they're apparently not reflecting on it. So the question you're asking is, should the government or someone else ban them? And I'm saying I don't like banning things.
But for that one day, though, so it's not that you don't have freedom of speech. The democratic mandate or democratic vote from the people in this country might be, yeah, we don't want that on that day. You have freedom of speech and you can express yourself somewhere else, but no protesting on that day specifically.
Well, as I say, I think
wrong with that.
I think they'll do their cause damage by acting in this way. I think people will look at them and have the reaction that we just heard, actually, of distaste to what they're doing. And I think that sets their cause back. So my advice to them is not to protest on that day.
Liz, do you think people use the freedom of speech argument too much and for an excuse to do whatever they like?
Yeah, well, this is an example of that. They're using the freedom of speech to do it, and it's actually working against us. We gave them that freedom of speech. Thank heavens for our fallen heroes and what they did for us, and we've got to remember that. And it's one day. Look, you say you wear your poppy on that one day.
Yes, I do.
Because it means it's so special and so sacred.
Yes, that's right.
Well, they should not protest on that one day. Do it any other day, but not on that day. It's a sacred day, and we need to remember in silence. We don't want this. It's not fair.
No, people don't want it, probably. That's probably right. But you talk about what happened in the Second World War, and my father was involved, of course, in the Second World War as well. And this country fought for freedom of speech. That's what it fought for, against tyranny, against Hitler, against the Nazis, for the right for a democratic future for us all. That's what they fought for. But that includes allowing people you don't agree with to say what they want to say. That's what freedom of speech is.
Them, but we'll just...
Well, you are. You're trying to say you shouldn't do it on this particular day.
With some parameters. So that's like a law. When you have a law, it doesn't mean you're not free to do things.
No, and it's just one...
There can be parameters around it. You're not just open, say whatever you like, and then, that's not how it works. I think some people think that, which is why sometimes you get all this abuse on social media. People say, well, that's freedom of speech. It's like, yeah, but if you are free to say it, but then it has consequences. Words.
Of course, absolutely has consequences. The consequences of marching on this particular day for this group of people will be to set their cause back because people don't like it. That will be the consequence of that.
But it's for one day, and you should be able to remember without interruption.
Well, we will. All of us around this table will.
Yeah, but but if they interrupt, which they're hoping to do in Birmingham, it's a disgrace, and it should be stopped.
All right, well, tell me what do you think at home? GBNews.com/you'll say. Do you feel people use the freedom of speech argument to just kind of do whatever they like, carte blanche? Coming up, though, it's the Pulse. Dr. Rennie Hundekamp will be live in the studio as winter approaches. How can we prepare? Let's get your latest news headlines first with Sophia Wensler.
It's 4:31. These are your headlines from the GB Newsroom. Your top story this hour, the Queen will miss remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. A palace spokesperson has said while this is a source of great disappointment to the Queen, she will mark the occasion privately at home and hopes to return to public duties early next week. This comes as Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would attend both the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph and the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall tonight. Boris Johnson has suggested that Donald Trump would certainly do a trade deal with the UK. The former Prime Minister said the US President-elect is offering economic hope, but that the government would be too pathetic to try to secure a deal. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage said the UK needs to roll out the red carpet for Trump and that America is our most important relationship in terms of trade. Farage also said he would help mend fences between Sir Keir Starmer's government and the incoming Trump administration following tensions over previous comments.
This is a pro-British American president. That gives us potentially huge opportunities if we can overcome the difficulties that the whole of the cabinet have been rude about him. I might be useful as an interlocutor, unofficially, behind the scenes, to try and help mend some of those fences. If the government choose to use me, I would do that, not because I support the Labour government, but because I believe in something called the national interest.
Now, the Deputy President of the National Farmers Union, David Exwood, has said there's many things wrong with the budget and it's threatened food supplies. It comes as farmers are planning a protest in central London on the 19th of November in response to Rachel Reeves's changes to inheritance tax on farmers. 17 people have been taken to hospital after a crash involving two double-decker buses in Manchester. The accident happened this morning near the junction of Rochdale Road and Livesey Street on the edge of the city centre. 9 ambulances, an air ambulance, 2 response vehicles and an advanced paramedic were sent to the scene. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a gloomy few days, it does look like changes on the way as we head into next week, but the next couple of days still remaining quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Thanks to these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK, they'll be slowly pushing their way eastwards through the rest of today and into tomorrow. That does mean quite a cloudy end to the day for most of us today. Northern and western parts of Scotland seeing some clearer spells to end the day, and that's slowly pushing its way north and eastwards as we go through the early hours of Sunday morning. We do see a weather front arriving though from the northwest overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. Quite a mild night, particularly across southern and western areas where we see that thicker cloud. However, anywhere that does see those clearer spells could be turning a little chilly with temperatures in the low single figures. So starting the day on Sunday then, across the southern and western parts of the UK, there will be some patchy clear spells around, and that could lead to the odd patch of mist and fog in places, but generally quite a cloudy and grey start to the day. Quite a damp start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but it's western parts of Scotland that will see the dampest start to the day. Some outbreaks of heavy rain across western parts of Scotland, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the morning. Eastern parts of Scotland, though, perhaps a bit of a brighter start. Through Sunday morning, though, that weather front then pushes its way eastwards as we go through the day, kind of fizzling out as it does so generally turning a little bit lighter. Parts of southern and eastern England, South Wales, southwest England, perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start of Monday. But for most of us, Monday and Tuesday do look a bit brighter, and temperatures will generally be staying around about average for the time of year.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, welcome. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Don't forget as well, download the GB News app. You can check out all the programmes completely free and watch at your convenience. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should Sadiq Khan apologise to the named firearms officer after he was cleared against Chris Kaba? Now, he was pressed for an apology during a City Hall scrutiny meeting where former mayoral rival Susan Hall demanded an answer. Let's have a listen.
Do you like to apologise to the police officer that has been found not guilty? And would you like to apologise for the whole attitude around this right from the beginning?
That is really important in a democracy. We have a proper system of checks and balances in relation to how the police are held to account.
Waffle, waffle, waffle. I asked you a very simple question. Would you like to apologise to the police officer that has now been found not guilty by the jury? Yes or no?
I think it's really important to support our firearms officers, but it's really important to make sure there is a system of accountability.
You're sounding like a parrot, Mr. Mayor. Just answer the question.
Yeah, so basically, he wouldn't answer the question, as you saw. Mr. Khan was being sympathetic, basically. She was saying that he was being too sympathetic towards Chris Kaba when he was initially killed. If you remember, lots of celebrities and lots of people got together to say, oh, it's terrible, which, of course, the death is not nice. But the full context was not known then. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Sadiq Khan apologise to the named firearms officer? Joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Norman, I'm going to come to you. I know you said you're sick of the culture of apology.
Yes, I mean, there's the David Lammy remark too. I'm not quite clear on my own mind what Sadiq Khan originally said. He was certainly sympathetic to Chris Kaba and his Chris Kaba's family after the guy died, and I think you can't criticise someone for being sympathetic to a family that's lost a member. So in that sense, that's relatively neutral. If he blamed the police officer before he was tried, and I'm not sure he did, then that clearly is wrong. If he didn't blame the police officer, then there's nothing to apologise for.
But do you not think that perhaps the fact that Sadiq Khan may well have known some of the background as well, I don't know whether he did or he didn't, but the fact that people were that quick to jump on the bandwagon, as he was in a way, with lots of others.
Well, I think that was unwise, to use a word I used earlier on in the programme. I think whenever there's a case of a potential legal action being taken in the public interest, someone being prosecuted, then politicians should keep out of that and not make comments for or against, because there's a judicial process that takes place, and people then go through that process and are found guilty or not guilty. And it's wrong to try and influence that in any shape or form.
Well, what he did was, I think his words were... he said that Chris Kaba was a young man who had his life cut short, sort of thing. So that was the way he was
well, that's all right, that's true.
Well, yeah, but, you know, when you say it in that way, it sort of comes across that his life was sort of taken away from him because he was sort of a good person who was doing good things.
I think he should apologise and then he should resign. I think he's an absolute disgrace and I don't think he's fit to hold office. He is a man that has an inflated ego. It's always everyone else's fault, and he should absolutely apologise to this officer and to his family, because now they have a bounty on his head and his security. I mean, his name is known everywhere. And this man, Chris Carber, let's not be no bones about it, who's a horrific gangster with a dreadful past, and he was in his car at the time going forwarding backwards and forwards with officers in front of him, and it really is ghastly that Khan could absolutely say what he said.
Let me give you the words. So Mr. Khan described Carber as a young life cut short, saying he understood the grave concerns and impact of Chris Carber's death on black Londoners across our city, and the anger, pain and fear it has caused, as well as the desire for justice and change. Right? You know, that's why. That's too far. You know, you're like... He's gone slightly further than he ought to have gone in that situation. I think it's perfectly all right to express sympathy for someone who's died or to the family. I think to then rope in the black community in London is probably going too far. Yeah,
but surely
he wasn't on his own. Bell Ribeiro Addy, Labour's MP for Clapham and Brixton Hill at the time, supported Chris Carber's parents, whilst Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott called for justice amid the protests in London.
Yes.
He is so... I mean, he's supposed to, as Mayor of London, surely, to sort of support the police. And I think he really... as a Londoner, we deserve better. We deserve better than him. And I think he's an absolute disgrace for saying that. And let's not forget what this man does. Look at knife crime. Look at what's going in the streets of London as we speak. Look at the transport system. I spoke to someone who's lost his actual limbs, Sarah Lagarde, who's lost her arm and leg because of it's so unsafe on our undergrounds. And another death happened this week. And you know, he spends £6 million on changing names of tube trains.
All right, well let's find out. There's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Let's go to London. Let's speak to Alan Cook. Let's find out what his thoughts are. Alan Cook, should Sadiq Khan apologise? He jumped immediately onto a bandwagon of real concern and sympathy with Chris Carber's parents, which is fine, but some people think he went a little bit too far.
Well, he should, but he won't. And this is Khan across the board. You know, a young life cut short, anger, pain, fear caused the desire for justice and change from this. But yes, 100%. If he was an innocent guy who didn't have a huge criminal record for offences, including knives, imitation guns, and I won't mention other things which weren't prosecuted because the guy was obviously killed. But Khan would have known the details. So why would he say that unless he's actually trying to create a situation? And it's looking like he was trying to create a George Floyd type division within London, because I think when he said those comments, we didn't have a Labour government. I think at the time we had a Tory government. So that's, I think, his just behind it all. He's
Of course, Alan, he would say that he was expressing concern for young black Londoners and that he was also showing sympathy towards Chris Carber's parents.
I'd be more concerned about the gangsters. You know, he was a member of the 67 drill gang, which the Met Police have said is the most violent gang in London. So he was an active member of that. You know,
but even if he was,
I think causes concern for people of their safety in London.
Yeah, but even if he was, doesn't mean that he should be shot, if you see what I mean. Well,
100%. But two other firearms officers on the scene at the time said that if the first guy hadn't shot, they were just about to. One said he was a millisecond away from shooting. You know, this is an Audi. I think it had dark windows, all blacked out windows in the back, so there's not much light coming into the car, and a gentleman of colour in there. And he, you know, how much vision did he have inside the car? I think it's incredibly sad and unfortunate that he got hit in the head. But he did only fire once. You know, he didn't do the usual sort of military double cap. So he wasn't actively trying to kill the guy. And there's so many police officers who actually said, we're no longer going to be firearms officers. And over 100 of them actually handed in their guns after the prosecution started. But and we had the army on measure ready to step in. So we've got a firearms deterrent in London. Because if he was prosecuted, there was going to be hundreds and hundreds more. So, the army are actually trained to kill. So who would you rather have, your firearms officers who are trained for these situations, or the army on the streets with their guns? It's time we start supporting the police, supporting our officers. We've had piss poor management of the police for decades now. We need to get some seriously good management in the police.
All right, Alan. All right, you're on a roll, but it was a good one. Alan Cook, thank you very much. He's that great British voice. What do you think? I'm going to read some of those out coming up. gbnews.com/you'll say. I want to read some of those on the way there. The Pulse Dr. Rennie Honderkamp will be live in the studio. As winter approaches, how can we prepare? That's next.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Her name is synonymous with fashion. Karen Millen, the high street designer whose dresses have been worn by some of the world's most famous women, including the Princess of Wales.
Yes, but in a recent Daily Mail interview conducted by our showbiz juggernaut, as I call her, Steph Tetchy, 63-year-old Karen confessed she isn't immune from worries about her appearance.
Well, this summer, Karen took the plunge with a £35,000 facelift using the very latest surgical techniques. Now, to hear more of her story, we're delighted to be joined by Karen herself and consultant plastic surgeon Dr. Tunj Tiryaki, co-founder of the London Regenerative Institute. So, how did you two get together?
That was a meeting at the Parliament, wasn't it?
It was, actually, yeah, through mutual friends, really.
So you already knew of Tunj and you knew his expertise. How did you come to the decision to kind of go ahead with this? I was reading the Mail article and apparently one day you looked in the mirror. And I've heard this story so many times before,
yeah, I know,
from not least my mum and my nan,
yeah.
And they said they looked in the mirror and thought, goodness me.
I know. I think it's that menopausal thing when suddenly things just change. And, yeah, for me, it was coming out of lockdown almost, where I was probably on the back end of menopause, and I just, suddenly looked in the mirror and it was like, oh, my God, what's happened to me?
Because I guess you still, I mean, for me, I'm 35, I still feel like a 20-year-old or even an 18-year-old. Does that change as you get into sort of your...
Unfortunately not, right?
Well, it does change to a certain extent, but, I've always looked after myself, so I've always kept fit and looked after my skin. So, it did come as a bit of a shock. I mean, I know, obviously, ageing happens to us all and we have to embrace that, but there's a certain amount that we have to put up with and then, other things can step in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 49 minutes after 4 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Right, well, it is norovirus season. And with winter fast approaching, how can we be protected from the norovirus? That's that horrible one where each orifice at the same time. Also known as the winter vomiting bug, threatens every UK household, with an estimated 3.7 million in this country contracting the virus every year. But some good news. It's been announced that the world's first vaccine to battle it is being developed. Well, joining me now, Dr. Rennie Honderkamp. She's a writer, author and broadcaster. Dr. Rennie.
Hello.
Really? There's now got some sort of potential vaccine for the norovirus?
Potentially. I mean, I will believe this one when I see it again. It's more mRNA technology, so you know my feelings that we need lots of time to actually see how that pans out. And if they have got a vaccine against it, all well and good. But I think time will tell. It's a virus. Viruses mutate, and that's why it's really hard to get vaccines against them. But there are things you can do to try and not catch norovirus.
So what is it and what happens and how... What are the obvious ways of catching it?
So it's a really contagious... Oh, excuse me, I shouldn't eat nuts before I come on air.
Did you? I didn't notice it. Did you say, oh, God, contagious, as she spits a nut out at me?
I don't have norovirus, you'll be pleased to know. So it's a really contagious virus that comes around every winter. It likes winter, and it causes you to get really bad tummy pains, to vomit, and to get diarrhea. And it's that vomiting and the aerosols that spread it around that make it really contagious.
Is it?
So it's what we call fecal oral. So it's hand hygiene is the key to not catching norovirus. So really making sure you wash your hands with hot soapy water whenever you're in contact with anything that might be contaminated, or just fairly regularly, I think. Especially when you go to the loo. Really important.
Public toilets,
Public toilets when you're preparing food. And if you're around somebody in your household who has got it, try and isolate them in another room if you can. Then once they're getting better, fully disinfect that area around them to about 9 feet, because that's the spread. And stay away from people that have got it. So take them hot drinks, leave it outside the door, but just keep your distance from them, because it really is contagious. But I think this...
But doesn't it stay on door handles for like 6 weeks and stuff like that?
It can. So that's why I say when you're in a house with somebody, good disinfectant. And the recommendation is actually bleachy water. So some hot water with some bleach in and wash everything down. That's the best thing you can do. Obviously wash the bedding on a nice high temperature and just try. It's quite hard in a house, especially if you've got kids, not to get it. And it does go around schools, as we both know. And it's hard because children need comfort. So just keep being really careful.
Can you be slightly immune to it if you've... because obviously it's a virus, so it's always mutating, so it's difficult to sort of catch, as in catch hold of and work out how to stop it.
So if you get it, you probably won't get it again for another couple of years, for a few years, but then it will change enough that you could get it again. I mean, when I worked in a hospital, I got it. I haven't had it since then. It was pretty horrible. And we do have a problem in hospitals. So every single winter, we see entire hospital wards shut down because of norovirus. Because once one patient gets it, the entire ward will get it.
How severe can it be?
So, for most people, they will get through it, as they will most gastroenteritis, and they keep themselves well hydrated. But for people that are vulnerable, the elderly, the malnourished and very young children, it can actually be fatal.
Wow.
So 3.7 million people in the UK get it every single year. About 2.2 million die in the world from it. So it is a serious disease, and it is one that we need to be aware of and just work out how we can best protect ourselves.
God. Right. On that bombshell. Nobody's got it here, though, thankfully.
Nobody's got it here. Everybody's got a cold, though, it would seem.
That's what puts me off cruise ships as well, because I think if you get on a cruise ship, and they won't let you get off.
Well, it's the air conditioning, isn't it? And we saw that with the first COVID outbreak, that it just ripped through the ship, through the air conditioning, and just close capacity with people, so...
Well, you're back, aren't you, for Saturday 5?
I'm back for Saturday 5. We've got some great topics tonight. We're talking about what happened in Amsterdam this week. We've got some funny stories about the Trump, Rachel Levine, women that look like men. I don't know why. Well, at the top of the Biden administration.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Rennie will be back at 6 o'clock with the Saturday 5. Make sure you join her. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. Difficult Conversations is next.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a gloomy few days, it does look like changes on the way as we head into next week, but the next couple of days still remaining quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Thanks to these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK, they'll be slowly pushing their way eastwards through the rest of today and into tomorrow. That does mean quite a cloudy end to the day for most of us today. Northern and western parts of Scotland seeing some clearer spells to end the day, and that's slowly pushing its way north and eastwards as we go through the early hours of Sunday morning. We do see a weather front arriving though from the northwest overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. Quite a mild night, particularly across southern and western areas where we see that thicker cloud. However, anywhere that does see those clearer spells could be turning a little chilly with temperatures in the low single figures. So starting the day on Sunday then, across the southern and western parts of the UK, there will be some patchy clear spells around, and that could lead to the odd patch of mist and fog in places, but generally quite a cloudy and grey start to the day. Quite a damp start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but it's western parts of Scotland that will see the dampest start to the day. Some outbreaks of heavy rain across western parts of Scotland, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the morning. Eastern parts of Scotland, though, perhaps a bit of a brighter start. Through Sunday morning, though, that weather front then pushes its way eastwards as we go through the day, kind of fizzling out as it does so generally turning a little bit lighter. Parts of southern and eastern England, South Wales, southwest England, perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start of Monday, but for most of us, Monday and Tuesday do look a bit brighter and temperatures will generally be staying around about average for the time of year.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's only two wind.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock. Welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me this hour, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Home Office Minister Norman Bacon. Let's call him Bacon again. Coming up in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is Trump good for Britain? He's very likely to disagree with the Labour government on most of the key issues, but he does understand Brexit. So the question is a Trump win good for Britain? I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Cast that vote now. On the way, Fatima Whitbread will be joining me in Difficult Conversations. She's a former British Olympian, and she launches a new book. We'll talk about her childhood growing up and how her childhood and her time in care has motivated her. That's Difficult Conversations. Then we will go live to Tel Aviv and get the latest from Uri Geller, get his thoughts on the violence in Amsterdam and what a Trump victory means for the Middle East. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
It's just gone 5 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB Newsroom. Your top story this hour, the Queen is set to miss remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. Queen Camilla had hoped to join the royal family at the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance this evening and to honour all of the war dead at the Remembrance Sunday ceremony on Whitehall. This comes as Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would attend both the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph and the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall tonight. Boris Johnson has suggested that Donald Trump would certainly do a trade deal with the UK. The former Prime Minister said the US President-elect is offering economic hope, but that the government would be too pathetic to try to secure a deal. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage said the UK needs to roll out the red carpet for Trump and that America is our most important relationship in terms of trade. Farage also said he would help mend fences between Sir Keir Starmer's government and the incoming Trump administration following tensions over previous comments.
This is a pro-British American president. That gives us potentially huge opportunities if we can overcome the difficulties that the whole of the cabinet have been rude about him. I might be useful as an interlocutor, unofficially, behind the scenes, to try and help mend some of those fences. If the government choose to use me, I would do that, not because I support the Labour government, but because I believe in something called the national interest.
In other news, Iran has rejected a report it was behind an alleged plot to assassinate Donald Trump, calling it a repulsive claim to complicate matters between Iran and America. This comes as the US has charged an Iranian man in connection with the alleged plot to assassinate Trump ahead of the election. The department described him as an Iranian asset residing in Tehran. It said his immigration status was as a US child and was deported in 2008 following a robbery conviction. Meanwhile, Qatar has threatened to stop mediating a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal until Hamas and Israel show a sincere willingness to return to the negotiating table. Officials have told Hamas that it will no longer host its political office unless the militant group and Israel engage in constructive and meaningful talks. The Gulf country has served as a mediator between the two sides since the conflict began last October after Hamas's attack on Israel. Back in the UK, the Deputy President of the NFU, David Exwood, has said there's many things wrong with the budget and it's threatened food supplies. This comes as farmers are planning a protest in central London on the 19th of November in response to Rachel Reeves' changes to inheritance tax on farmers. Speaking at the Lord Mayor's show today, Mr Exwood told GB News about how the NFU are feeling.
NFU is representing farmers in the way it does best by working on how to change MP's mind. And there's many ways of doing that, and we will keep doing that. And everybody wants to play their part. Again, farmers are united and they're determined. I want to be really clear about this. We know how we feel about it. We know the value of what we do, and we have got to bring that to the government, because this isn't just about tax. This is actually about backing British farming. And again, that's what we're going to do today. Send out a message about the importance of farming, the value we bring to the country, and how we want everybody to get behind farmers. We have to do that. There's no choice.
To Manchester now, where 17 people have been taken to hospital after a crash involving two double-decker buses. The accident happened this morning near the junction of Rochdale Road and Livesey Street on the edge of the city centre. 9 ambulances, an air ambulance, 2 response vehicles and an advanced paramedic were all sent to the scene. And Sir Mark Cavendish has announced his retirement, saying Sunday's Singapore Criterium will be his final race as his professional cycling career. The Tour de France record breaker received his knighthood last month and finished this season with a record-breaking 35th career Tour stage win in what he said would likely be his last race. But after receiving his knighthood from the Prince of Wales at Windsor Castle on the 2nd of October, he said it will be really nice to race as a Knight Commander. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. It's just coming up to 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. Before we get stuck into the debates, here's what else is coming up today. And we'll go live to Tel Aviv to get Uri Geller's thoughts on the violence in Amsterdam and what a Trump victory means for the Middle East. Then, in difficult conversations, former British Olympian Fatima Whitbread will be joining me as she launches a new book. We talk about her childhood and how growing up in care has motivated her. And that is, of course, difficult conversations coming up. And for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe in a 4-day working week? Housing Secretary Angela Rayner is said to be paving the way for the introduction of a 4-day week in the public sector, just days after imposing a £25 billion tax rise on businesses in the private sector. Will this make people more productive, or is it just giving people an extra day off? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe in a 4-day working week? Send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. But first, the mayor of Amsterdam has announced a series of emergency measures after anti-Semitic violence against Israeli football supporters on Thursday night. Hit-and-run attacks were carried out on Tel Aviv fans who were in the Dutch capital to watch a Europa League match. 5 people were taken to hospital and many have now been evacuated by emergency commercial flights. Dutch police will now be able to conduct extra searches as a ban on protests and face coverings is also in place. Well, joining me to get the thoughts on this is former performer and mystifier Uri Geller. I was doing so well up to that point. Uri, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, this is frightening, what happened in Amsterdam. Yes. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, frightening, no doubt. Look, Nana, we watched in horror the scenes in Amsterdam. This was purely and simply an anti-Semitic pogrom. It was organized and it was planned with these thugs targeting innocent Jews. But Nana, mark my words. You know, everything I say comes true. Mark my words now. This will be the next thing to happen on the streets of London, because these same thugs, these same type of thugs, have been allowed to hold hate marches there every week. And the British police have done nothing to stop them. Look, Nana, Europe is finished. I'll repeat it again. Look at my lips. Read my lips. Nana, Europe is finished. But thanks God, we are getting a new American president who will not tolerate this kind of thing, Nana. What a result. My goodness, what a result. No more Obama. Let me show you this.
OK, let's have a look at what Uri's showing us.
Can you see it? No more Obama. No more Biden, and no more Harris. Here, watch me as I cast them into the dustbin of history. Watch this. Into the dustbin of history. And what about all these billionaires, celebrities who came out to support Kamala, Taylor Swift, Oprah Winfrey, Lizzo, dozens and dozens more. But in the end, Nana, nobody cared. Look, if you go to my X account at the Uri Geller, you will see a special message I have for all these celebrities, these self-important imbeciles. I sent them packing to my Lamb Island. You know, there in my Lamb Island, a citizenship costs $1. All monies go to sick kids. Let them go there. Now look behind me, Nana. See this cap? Look at this cap. This was actually worn by Donald Trump. He signed it, and there is a strand of hair. I found a strand of hair inside the cap. So that means that I actually have Donald Trump's DNA. And you know what? I'm even thinking of cloning him. Look, Nana, let me tell you, here in Israel, we absolutely love Donald Trump. And when they announced he had won, our newscasters even toasted him with champagne live on air. And most people don't know this, but we even have a settlement on the Golan Heights called Trump Heights. But let's get serious now. Donald Trump could be the savior of the Middle East. And let me tell you why. Donald Trump wants to end the war in Lebanon, end the war in Gaza. He has demanded Hamas give our hostages back. And he has demanded that Hezbollah stop attacking us, and he will make both things happen. Now, finally, look at this photograph. And now Iran's leaders are quaking in their boots. This pathetic administration in America, under Joe Biden, strengthened Iran. They gave billions of dollars to Iran. And look at what happened. Iran spent it on arming Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. But now the good times are over for Iran. This time, Trump will not stop Israel from bombing Iran's nuclear sites and its oil fields. We can do it, and we will have Trump to protect us. Finally. And I think that you will see, this is major, it's a tsunami. You will see Israel make peace with Saudi Arabia under Trump. This is the biggest Arab country in the Middle East. And I think Trump will make it happen. And let me give you just the last line. I have Trump's hair. I will clone him, and I will send him to your country to sort out your government. Will you agree with me?
We could do with it. We could do with it, as long as it is actually his own. Uri Geller, thank you so much. Really good to talk to you.
Thank you.
So those are Uri's thoughts. Of course, you know, those are what he thinks and how he views things. But let's speak to Fred Weston. Fred Weston joins me now from the Revolutionary Communist Party. Fred, can I ask you what your thoughts are on what happened in Amsterdam on the other day?
What happened?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the media and look for the facts, you will find that the general dominant narrative that's being presented is completely false. There are videos available. I found them on Times of Israel. It's a newspaper from Israel. I found them on the Daily Mail, which I think your viewers probably appreciate as a paper. Videos which show thugs. Uri Geller talked about thugs. There were thugs out there, yeah. They're called Maccabi hooligans, Maccabi football fans, climbing up the wall of a house to rip down a Palestinian flag, burn it. They sing, listen to this song, Ole, 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 let the IDF win and fuck the Arabs.
Oh, sorry, apologies for the language. Sorry, I must apologise for that. Fred. We can't swear. I appreciate that you're repeating something, but no swearing. Apologies to the viewers, listeners.
I'm quoting what they're saying.
I know. I appreciate that, but no swearing. Thank you.
That's okay. No worries. F***K, the Arabs. And then the next part of that song is, why is school out in Gaza? The answer, they chant. They chant. There are no children left there. That is a song those fans were singing. Before, on the streets, they attacked a taxi driver with a crowbar, an Arab taxi driver, who then calls the other taxi drivers, right? And of course, they organize a counter-protest to defend themselves against these hooligans. That's what was happening. The narrative is completely false. They provoked. Look, they were in Athens in March. They attacked people on the streets simply for wearing keffiyehs because they looked like Arabs. This is what was going on. You're showing here, you always do this, this is your technique to try and negate what I'm saying, the way you use the videos. The facts are, this is what happened. It's reported in the Daily Mail. It's reported in the Metro. It's reported in many papers. They did this before the game. I'd just like to ask you a question, separate from this. Do you think it is the right thing to do at the beginning of a football match to have a minute's silence for the victims of the flooding in Valencia in Spain? Do you think that's the right thing to do?
In my view, let me be honest, I'd actually rather politics stayed out of football. So taking the knee, all that kind of thing, I don't really like any of it.
Not the knee. It was a minute's silence for the victims of the flooding.
I mean, look, that's up to them. I just tend to leave all of that outside. If people want to do that,
you want to leave
that's up to them.
I'll tell you, when that minute silence started, the area of the stadium where the Maccabi fans were erupted with flares and shouting and whistling, making a huge noise. And you know why? Because Spain has recognized Palestinian statehood. So they can't even be silent for 1 minute for the victims of a flood, and then they're presented these poor victims of anti-Semitism. You know, this is actually belittling.
But nobody wants nobody wants violence on any side. So Palestinian or Israeli.
Well, don't go and chant.
Nobody wants
things
that
on the streets of Amsterdam.
Yeah, and I don't like a lot of the football chanting and violence and whatever that's there.
Well,
you end up.
That's what started this mess.
There's racism, there's all sorts in football, to black people, white people, everything. So, you know, sometimes that's, to me, that is how football seems to conduct itself. But my question to you really is, in terms of what happened after that, so all the violence that happened afterwards, apparently, this is according to some reports, that there was meant to be a march, a pro-Palestinian march there, but then that was cancelled, but then they showed up anyway, and then there was the violence. And then, of course, they were trying... I know the Jewish people were chanting, or apparently some of the people, the Israeli side, were chanting things against the Palestinians, but not dissimilar to From the River to the Sea, but then from the other side. So, yeah, I'm aware that this wasn't just a one-sided situation.
Can I just say something? Do you know how many children have been killed in Gaza?
No. Do you?
16,500.
How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that?
Oh, The Guardian, Financial Times, The Economist.
Well, how do they know that? Where did they get their figures from?
How do they know?
Yeah.
It's a fact.
From where? From Hamas?
Where do you get your facts?
From Hamas. I'm just asking you. I'm asking you.
No. Oh, from Hamas.
Isn't it from? Isn't it from the
Hamas
I mean, I'm asking
narrative.
you. Where do the original figures come from?
It's the United Nations, UNICEF. All of them agree on this.
But they've been given those numbers from Hamas, right?
Sorry.
But they're given those numbers from the Hamas, the government in Gaza.
So they've invented.
Well, no, I'm just saying that sometimes
being shot in the neck by snipers.
Listen,
the letters from doctors working in Gaza who say the number of children with bullets in their necks.
Yeah, I'm not disputing the fact that many people are dying there, and it needs to stop. The war needs to stop. I'm with you on the way.
And then you go to Amsterdam and you sing a song and you gloat about the killing of these children, and then you say, "Oh, we got attacked by the hooligans, by the fans." Well, sorry, it doesn't work, that narrative.
Well, you have missed the bit where they did have a march planned, didn't they? So there was a pro-Palestinian protest
there was a march planned, yeah, because there's
Tel Aviv were there.
In Gaza.
Well, because Tel Aviv were there.
People in Gaza. Sorry?
Well, they planned the march there because they knew that the Tel Aviv fans would be there who are Israeli. So the bottom line is that, or mostly Israeli, so the bottom line is that it was not good either way, but it was... sounds a bit premeditated.
You know what you're trying to do? You put them on an equal level. You know, you put them on an equal level.
I don't think they're equal at all.
There is a people here that's had tens of thousands of its citizens killed in the bombing. There is another country which is powerfully armed. It's a nuclear power, has the most advanced technology, and can destroy Gaza 10 times over. And they're doing it. And you put them on the same level, or they should talk to each other. Well, why don't they stop
I'm not saying... Listen, I'm saying that if you look at it, first of all, October the 7th happened. I mean, you do acknowledge that that was bad and that it happened, right?
What?
October the 7th. You do acknowledge that was a terrible thing.
I don't condone the killing of civilians, okay?
Right.
Innocent civilians.
But you do.
I don't accept the story. I don't accept the story of starting everything with October the 7th.
Well,
I
no,
go
that's
back
why. But
you put it in context. Can I ask you something? You know, they say you keep going on about the missiles fired by Hamas, the missiles fired from Hezbollah. Why is the IDF killing people on the West Bank? Why are they taking the land of Palestinians away from them illegally, and nobody's saying anything? Why is that being done?
This will be the settlers.
Because you support the Zionist project of expelling the Palestinians. Netanyahu has said it. He's been quoted many times as saying it, that the aim is to expel more Palestinians. In Gaza, have you seen what's going on? Last time you accused me of
listen, Fred, we can go around in circles with this. I've seen what's going on. I'm not happy with people dying, but let's be honest, this latest conflict did start, this latest wave of conflict started on October the 7th, and that was instigated by Hamas in Gaza.
It was.
Not start on October the 7th. Well, this particular conflict, and the reason why there was some sort of peace and then this conflict ignited everything that's happened subsequently.
It did not start on October the 7th. It started much longer ago.
Well, listen,
you want to link it to that.
We're going to go around in circles, Fred, so we never get a good enough... You're going to have to come into the studio. We'll have a proper long chat, just you and me. But Fred Weston, thank you very much. He's from the Revolutionary Communist Party. Those are his thoughts as well. Right, stay with me. Difficult conversation is on the way. Childcare... Can't even speak now. Childcare campaigner Fatima Whitbread will be live in the studio. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Let's talk to Roger Kisker, who is the legal counsel for the Christian Legal Centre. Good morning, Roger. I'm really impressed, actually, by the fact that this school is taking the government to court on this. It's the only way we might get any sort of change. How important is it for these families who find a local religious school to keep their children in there? And are they all billionaires awash with cash?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this is about the fundamental right to educate your children in conformity with your religious beliefs. That's a right guaranteed under the European Convention of Human Rights. And any legislation, primary or secondary, has to be compatible with that convention. And so the basis of our claim is that this is an unfair tax because every country in the EU, first of all, it was by directive that there was no VAT on private education. In the Council of Europe, which is 56 member states, there are no other countries which put VAT on private education. This is an attack on school choice, and this is an attack on honest, hardworking parents who simply want to have their kids educated in a manner which they want them to be raised by themselves. And that, in a democratic nation, should be a given.
Obviously, Labour's logic being, just to provide some balance here, Roger, is that families who send their children to private school can afford the extra 20%, whether they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children at school. They should be able to afford it, and the schools should be able to absorb some of that cost. And that money will be spent in the state sector. Can you see the logic behind the reasoning?
To be honest, I can't, because not every school is Eton. Not every parent has the means to send their children to private education.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome. 24 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's now time for this week's difficult conversation. Now, my guest today is Fatima Whitbread. She's a childcare campaigner whose early life was marked by extraordinary hardship, abandonment and resilience. Left alone at 3 months, she was found and rescued by the authorities after days of neglect. And these moments with caring individuals left a lasting impression, hinting at the compassion that she would later channel into her work now. Fatima runs a successful campaign group with her message being the care system is broken and it's time for fundamental and positive change. I'm very happy to say that Fatima joins me now. Fatima Whitbread, you are a star.
It's lovely to see you again, Nana.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me here and sharing the platform.
Yeah.
Really important subject, one that's very close to my heart, obviously. Children in the care system. Every child has a right to a safe and happy childhood, and Fatima's My Bright Shining Star is all about that. It's about highlighting what happens with children in the care system.
Yeah.
It's also about trying to find foster care homes for young children. We've got currently about 110,000 children in the care system as we speak, and there's a shortage of somewhat 10,000 foster carers. So we've just gone through the last 2 weeks also with Care Leavers Week, and as we all know, 18-year-olds are far too young to go independent living. So, you know, Fatima's UK campaign's all about bringing a collaboration of the 4 nations together, harnessing the power of one voice to improve the life outcomes for our young children. But the book, as
now,
you've
written this book, My Bright Shining Star.
Yeah.
This is Fatima's book.
That's my book, and that's about a young Fatima in the care system. And you can see my Auntie Ray, who I always called the tickle monster. Auntie Ray was a really good role model for us children in the care system. All children need somebody that they feel secure with, especially when they're growing up in care. Auntie Ray was that person. I can remember if in the mornings hiding under the bed sheets, and when she used to come on duty, I would wait until she tiggled me before I got up. I didn't feel like my day had started, but yeah, it's a really well illustrated book by Rihanna Wright, and for children between 3 and 11. So here's the thing, Nana, I would urge people to buy this book and gift it either to a school, to libraries, or to your loved ones, and you will be playing your part in helping to improve and make a difference to young people's lives, because the proceeds go to Fatima's UK campaign, which helps to put children in working programmes, the power of sport, arts and technology, which keeps them in a safe haven away from, you know, predators that like to prey upon our young children. It's always difficult because we don't have today community-based projects anymore. Long gone are the days where they could play safely. It's all about trying to help put them on a human path to reaching their goals.
Yes. And what I find quite astonishing is there are so many people who actually grew up in care.
Yes.
And I'm coming across people, adults now, who've gone through the care system, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, I'm amazed that you have come out the other end the way you have, because, as I understand it, many end up in prison.
Yeah. Well, we have, as I said, there's 27% of under 21-year-olds we currently speak today in the prisons have either come from the care system or crossed the path of the care system. And that's really largely due to the fact there aren't very many projects out there now, no community-based events where we can get these young people involved and skilling them up and get them into jobs, which then they can live a truly independent life. I mean, our young 18-year-olds going, what we're looking at now is 2,000 to 3,000 of them going independent living around about this time of the year. And 33% of them within the first 2 years end up homeless.
Yeah.
And it's a really big problem because they either get addiction problems, they sofa surf and rough sleep, or they get involved with undesirables because they can't actually independently support themselves, so they're involved with crime and end up in the crime system. So we're really looking to bring collaboration and partnerships together.
With what sort of organisations would you want to collaborate with?
Yes, well, obviously with private companies out there that can help skill up our young people. We currently also work with the England Football League Trust, of which the 72 boroughs up and down the country, getting young children into sport programmes, which teaches them an awful lot of skills, life skills. But not all children love sport, so we do arts and technology programmes too. And what that does is it actually gives them the opportunity to skill up their life skills, get them into working jobs, apprenticeships. I mean, many of these clubs also have catering, management, obviously groundsmen, medics. There are all sorts of jobs that these young people can do. But the government can't plug every hole, we know that. So I'm looking for companies out there that could come aboard and provide the opportunity for our young people to skill up, get them into working jobs so they can actually work independently and support themselves and hopefully break that cycle when they have a family of their own so history doesn't repeat itself. It's really important that we do the most we can for our young children because they're our future.
And also break the cycle.
Break that cycle,
because if you've experienced care, you won't want your kids to do it.
Well, look at me. I mean, I found the love of the Whitbreads through sport. Sport was my saviour, but I was abandoned as a baby, as you know, and I was then made a ward of court, which left me in the care system for 14 years of my life. Now, children that arrive in the care system, Nana, arrive there through no fault of their own. There are lots of misconceptions. These must be naughty children, that's why they're in care. That's not the case. And also the misconceptions about fostering. You can still foster whether you're a disabled person, whether you're the same-sex person, whether you're an older person. Intergeneration is a wonderful thing. You know, obviously once due diligence is done, there's no reason why you can't have a child live with you. And the best thing you can give a child is the love and security of a good home.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people still are with the perception that you need to be married and you need to have a, you know, but it's more to do with your own mental stability and your financial security. That you can look after a child.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that you've got the love in your heart and a place in your home to give one of these young children, you know, the opportunity of a secure, loving, stable home, please reach out. You know, there's a 10,000 shortage of foster carers. We need more of you. It's a very tough job, but it's also a very rewarding job.
Yeah.
You know, and there are lots of young people like myself that have been in the care system that have made, something of their lives, and you could help them be a good role model to help them put them on that track to making a success of their life.
So if people want to get hold of the book, where can they go? How do they get hold of it?
Yeah, so My Bright Shining Star, you can go to Waterstones, you can go to Sainsbury's, but also go on Amazon. You can order your book. You can play your part in helping make a difference to these young people by investing a small amount of money to buy the book and to help our young people, you know, especially this time of the year at Christmas, where lots of them, the care leavers, will be sitting at home on their own without families. So please help me make a difference. Buy My Bright Shining Star book and play your part.
Oh, well, it's lovely. It's a beautiful campaign, Fatima, and a lot of young people are very, very grateful for your help.
Oh, thank you.
Always a pleasure going to see you. Look, she's getting up. Oh, nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming in.
You're always very supportive of us and the kids.
Yeah.
Please help us.
All right, Fatima Whitbread, really good to talk to you. That is the brilliant Fatima Whitbread. Right, it's 33 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome. If you just tuned in, you've almost missed all of the show. We've still got 21 minutes to go. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, my Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you believe in a 4-day working week? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Lizzie Cundy and Norman Baker. But next, let's get your latest news with Sophia Wensler.
Nana, thank you. It's 5:33. These are your headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Queen will miss remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. A palace spokesperson has said while this is a source of great disappointment to the Queen, she will mark the occasion privately at home and hopes to return to public duties early next week. This comes as Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would attend both the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph and the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall tonight. Boris Johnson has suggested that Donald Trump would certainly do a trade deal with the UK. The former Prime Minister said the US President-elect is offering economic hope, but that the government would be too pathetic to try to secure a deal. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage said the UK needs to roll out the red carpet for Trump and that America is our most important relationship in terms of trade. Farage also said he would help mend fences between Sir Keir Starmer's government and the incoming Trump administration following tensions over previous comments.
This is a pro-British American president. That gives us potentially huge opportunities if we can overcome the difficulties that the whole of the cabinet have been rude about him. I might be useful as an interlocutor, unofficially, behind the scenes, to try and help mend some of those fences. If the government choose to use me, I would do that, not because I support the Labour government, but because I believe in something called the national interest.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden has invited Donald Trump to meet him in the White House next week. The sitting president and the president-elect will meet in the Oval Office on Wednesday. The post-election invitation is a tradition held between the outgoing and incoming presidents. However, when Trump lost the election to Biden in 2020, he didn't host him. Meanwhile, Qatar has threatened to stop mediating a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal until Hamas and Israel show a sincere willingness to return to the negotiating table. Officials have told Hamas that it will no longer host its political office unless a militant group and Israel engage in constructive and meaningful talks. The Gulf country has served as a mediator between the two sides since the conflict began last October after Hamas's attacks on Israel. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a gloomy few days, it does look like changes on the way as we head into next week, but the next couple of days still remaining quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Thanks to these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK, they'll be slowly pushing their way eastwards through the rest of today and into tomorrow. That does mean quite a cloudy end to the day for most of us today. Northern and western parts of Scotland seeing some clearer spells to end the day, and that's slowly pushing its way north and eastwards as we go through the early hours of Sunday morning. We do see a weather front arriving though from the northwest overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. Quite a mild night, particularly across southern and western areas where we see that thicker cloud. However, anywhere that does see those clearer spells could be turning a little chilly with temperatures in the low single figures. So starting the day on Sunday then, across the southern and western parts of the UK, there will be some patchy clear spells around, and that could lead to the odd patch of mist and fog in places, but generally quite a cloudy and grey start to the day. Quite a damp start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but it's western parts of Scotland that will see the dampest start to the day. Some outbreaks of heavy rain across western parts of Scotland, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the morning. Eastern parts of Scotland, though, perhaps a bit of a brighter start. Through Sunday morning, though, that weather front then pushes its way eastwards as we go through the day, kind of fizzling out as it does so generally turning a little bit lighter. Parts of southern and eastern England, South Wales, southwest England, perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start of Monday, but for most of us, Monday and Tuesday do look a bit brighter and temperatures will generally be staying around about average for the time of year.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome. This is GB News, 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, at GB News, we do love to hear what you think. Every day we run our poll of the day. Today, we did ask, should war memorials have protected status in Britain? And the results are in. Guess what? 99% of you said yes. And here's the 1% that said no. There was a 0 don't know, but 99% of you said yes, they should. Only 1% said no. Well, there you go. It's definitive. So, as ever, for all our latest polls, news and everything else, go to gbnews.com/poll. Right, though, now it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do you believe in a 4-day working week? Housing Secretary Angela Rayner is said to be paving the way for the introduction of a 4-day week in the public sector, just days after imposing a £25 billion tax rise on private businesses. But Could the move make workers more efficient, or is it just giving workers an extra day off? And that is workers in the public sector. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you believe in a 4-day working week? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also former Home Office Minister Norman Baker. Norman, 4-day working week.
There is some evidence from France that it can work, that it can be more efficient. However, that's a caveat. I'm not in favour of the public sector having a 4-day week, and if Angela Rayner is planning that, I'm not agreeing with that. What I would be interested in doing is seeing if any private sector businesses wanted to introduce it and see how it went, and whether or not they would measure the efficiency. And if they come back and say it's more efficient, then I might be prepared to look at it, but I'm not prepared to look at it without that evidence.
Well, there was a survey that was done with some council workers, and it started off well, but then it turned out they were less productive in many areas.
I think that may be the case.
Yeah, because that's what you do, isn't it? You do really well if they're trialling it for the 3 months, just to convince people that this is perfect, and then as soon as it actually was imposed, you'd then become lazy.
Yeah. Well, for me, Angela Rayner has the business skills of Marge Simpson. She hasn't got any sense. I really don't think this Labour Party have a clue.
Are you going to get her to resign?
I think she should resign on this because, look, the businesses have been hammered by the national insurance changes. Now, businesses are facing more troubles than employers. Look what's happened to the hospitality business, let's just say, you know, through COVID, and now they're being hammered with this more from the budget. And you know, and others will be bound to jump on the bandwagon of this. 4-day a week. Our economy is on its knees. I'm really worried that we're kind of breeding a nation of hermits that don't want to go out and work. And, you know, I work hard and play hard, and I'm afraid this doesn't make sense at all.
Well, part of this was because there was a kind of negotiation with TfL to try and, you know, stop the strikes. So by offering them 4 days a week and less hours, that could potentially stop the strikes.
I mean, the 4-day week only works, in my view, if the same number of hours are spread over 4 days rather than 5. And there's an argument for that. You give someone a bit more time off, but they still do the same number of hours at work. However, what will tend to happen, and I think this has happened with ASLEF on the main railway lines, is that they do a 4-day week and then they get called in for overtime at a higher rate.
Yeah, but the tube staff will get a deal of 4.6%. They're getting their meal breaks all free and paid for, don't forget. You know, what's going on? I think we're breeding a nation that's going to end up being lazy. We need everyone to work hard and show the benefits. Our economy's on its knees. And look what this government...
This is for the public sector.
Yes, it's from the public sector. But others, as I said, will jump on the bandwagon with this. You wait and see. This wokery, you watch it. They'll all jump on it.
Rachel only has really control over the public sector, which is why they're able to impose that.
Yeah, they'd be wrong to impose it. I mean, what should happen is it's an experiment worth having, I think. Let me go as far as that, and it's happened in other countries. If the private sector wants to do it and it turns out to be productive for them, and they'll be looking at the bottom line and the finances of it very carefully indeed because it's their business money, if it works for them, then there may be an argument to extend it to the public sector. But it has to be that way around rather than starting with the public sector first.
Well, I think what annoys me on all of this is just like the national insurance hike, it only affects the private sector. So this 4-day week that they could potentially impose on and use as a bargaining chip for TfL or ASLEF or any of these unions that want to strike, for me, I think it's really wrong because they're also doing less hours as well. And I agree with you, Norman, on that. But my worry is this split of public and private sector, which I think is very divisive.
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope. I really do. And others will be jumping on this softy bandwagon. And I've just got to say what this government is doing to other businesses. Look what they're doing to the farmers at the moment, and then taking away the money from the pensioners. It's all wrong.
Well, they've kind of shackled themselves by saying we're not going to raise these 3 taxes, national insurance, VAT and all the other ones, and income tax, which actually I'd rather they raised a bit of income tax than stop this taking a little bit here, which is damaging everything.
Well, I mean, the taxation policy of the government is a bit mad because they've inherited quite a difficult situation, to be honest with you. But there are taxes they could look at which are much better. For example, the last government gave a huge amount of money back to the banks. Now, they can afford to pay a bit more tax. And I'd rather the banks were paying tax rather than individual people.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, there's things you could be doing, but you're not doing.
Yeah, I think you've got a good point there, big business. But listen, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. I know what you're thinking. She hasn't read any. I will read some after this. Coming up, my quick fire quiz. I'm going to test my panel on some of the stories that caught their eye this week.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
On the 8th of October at Battersea Arts Centre, a new orchestra launched its inaugural season. The orchestra, which is named Chromatica, is formed of some of the best young musicians in Britain. They're due to perform in traditional venues and in community spaces. The aim is to bring their youth and dynamism to a wide repertoire of music. Predominantly, they'll work with emerging conductors who will have the chance to shape the orchestra and its repertoire. To share her experiences of bringing the ensemble together, I'm joined by the violinist and Chromatica Orchestra lead, Maren Bosma. To what extent is this novel? To what extent is this new ground?
Well, new ground, it is new ground in a sense that this is a completely new orchestra. Obviously, in the current sort of cultural climate, it's not really easy to set up a new orchestra. And so in that sense, it's a novelty for us to kind of try and carve out our space in the current climate of musical orchestras and musicians in Britain.
Yes, I mean, it's quite odd in a way to think of a new orchestra because the ones that we have tend to be struggling and numbers indeed have been reduced. I used to be associated with an orchestra which unfortunately went under. You've got some private backing for this.
Yeah.
Why do you think the private backers have been willing to give you support? What is it that they see as your unique selling proposition?
Well, Chromatica Orchestra essentially is an early career orchestra. So we're formed of all sort of top musicians who've graduated in, say, the last sort of 5 to 10 years. Because everyone is of that generation, there is a sort of enthusiasm and dynamism that we bring to the stage I think is quite unique. The orchestra's mission, it's really focused on creating opportunities for young emerging musicians.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 48 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is at GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Now let's have a look at some of the your says that have been coming in at gbnews.com/your say. Somebody said here that I looked grumpy. Grandad said, well said, Fatima. Once a star, always a star. Keep going, girl. As of course, I was to Fatima Whitbread earlier. And somebody said that, David said, Nana, you look starstruck interviewing Fatima. It's so good to see two strong women who deserve all the luck they can get. Well, thank you. But Fatima's quite incredible, isn't she? Comment here from Grumpy Grandad. He says 4-day week sounds like another loony left idea, and I worry it could be used to pay people less. So no, it's not a good idea. Well, actually, on this occasion for the left, they're going to be paid the same, but do 4 days and fewer hours. This is part of the negotiation. I mean, it's utter madness, isn't it? Let's see, what else have we got? Sylvia says, I love Fatima. Her last book was brilliant. Thank you, Sylvia, for that. And Bridget pointing out this, which I agree, and I've heard many times, how's it nobody's pointing out that the Jewish people have lived in Judea for 6,000 years. These others are followers of a religion invented in 640 AD. So who has more rights to live there? Well, that's the question. It's all questionable. Where do you start? Where do you start anything? We'll keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say. Andy says Hamas hides under the skirts of girls and women in Gaza. In the UK, their sympathisers hide under the Palestinian flag. Well, maybe not. A lot of people would say that that's not true, and a lot of people who are holding the Palestinian flag are actually worried about the deaths of those in Gaza. But thank you for your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say. It's now time for the quick fire quiz. It's the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines right now. Joining me, former Home Office Minister Norman Baker, or Bacon, and also broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. I mean, he's His suit is sort of the colour of it, a little bit. Maybe some off bacon. Right, let's hear your buzzers. Norman Baker, your buzzer, please. Is the colour of bacon. And also, Lizzie Connolly, your buzzer. Right, let's do it. Let's play along at home. Question 1. Kemi Badenoch becomes the first black woman to lead a major political party in the UK. But what position has she not held in government? No, I've got to give you some options.
Oh, you're all right, OK.
A, Woman and Equalities Minister. B, International Trade Secretary. Or C, Housing Secretary. Lizzie Connolly. A, you think she hasn't held equality... Well,
C.
It is C. The answer is C, Housing Secretary.
Oh.
Yeah, she was the Equalities Minister.
There you go.
Yes, it's C. She has not held the position of the Housing Secretary. Right, question 2. Open question. Former President Donald Trump pulled off a remarkable comeback to win the US presidential election. But who is the only other president to have served 2 non-consecutive terms in office? Lizzie Connolly.
Ronald Reagan.
Norman Baker.
Franklin D. Roosevelt.
OK. I think the answer is Grover Cleveland, who served as the 22nd and the 24th president in the late 19th century. No, you didn't know that one, did you?
Yeah, that was a tough one.
You didn't know that one. Every now and again, I do like to chuck in a hand grenade.
That was fair.
Right, question 3, true or false? HS2 is spending over £100 million on a structure to protect endangered bats. Lizzie Cundy.
It's true.
Really?
I say it's false.
He's going to say it's false. The amount might be wrong. Let's see the answers. It's true, yes.
Jesus,
they are spending more than £100 million on a shed to protect bats so that they can fly in and out.
Right, that is bats, I'm afraid.
That is Batsville.
Question 4, closest answer wins. Which supermarket chain has created its own brand version of the famous Coca-Cola truck for a promotional Christmas tour? Norman Baker.
Yes, Sainsbury's.
Lizzie Cundy.
I'll go different. Morrison's.
Let's have a look, see who's right, or neither of you. No, it's
Lidl.
Well, of course, Lidl. They always do the bargain basement thing, won't they? But they're they've got some very good products in Lidl, actually. Well, so far, because you didn't score any points.
No, well, we've got 1-1.
Yeah,
1-1.
Yeah, but this is the 5th question, so you've kind of... Right, the answer is Lidl. Not sure how Coca-Cola will feel about that one. Question 5. Which London club, London football club, holds the Europa Conference League record for the most goals? Is it A, Arsenal, B, West Ham, or C, Chelsea? Lizzie Cundy.
I'm going Arsenal.
She's going
Though
Arsenal.
I'm a Chelsea fan.
I'm going to go Chelsea.
You're going to go Chelsea?
Oh, don't be Chelsea.
You're right, Lizzie, otherwise. The answer is... Chelsea!
I'm going! No!
That's your club.
I thought it had to be. Well, Chelsea hold the record for... I should have just said them anyway. Hold the record after beating a team.
That's what I thought the reason was, for the 8-0 victory.
God, I'm never going to live
they
this
beat
down.
Noah 8-0 this week. Well, yes. So throughout the show, so well done, but it's 2-1 to Norman Baker.
Yeah.
You beat Lizzie Cundy, Lizzie, on that cliffhanger.
Beat you on a Chelsea question.
I know.
I'll
never live it down.
Well,
Sorry.
listen, throughout the show, I've been asking, is a Trump win good for Britain? And according to our X poll, 94% of you say yes, 94%, and only 5.6% of you say no. Well, we'll go with you guys with that one. I've got to say a huge thank you to my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie Cundy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And also to the former Home Office Minister, Norman Baker. Norman Baker, thank you so much to you. And as ever, a massive thank you to you at home for your company. It's always a pleasure. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, at 3 o'clock. Make sure you check out the GB News app, or why not stream all of the shows live on YouTube. Up next, it's time for the Saturday 5. Stay tuned. But now, I'll leave you with a weather forecast. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. After a gloomy few days, it does look like changes on the way as we head into next week, but the next couple of days still remaining quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Thanks to these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK, they'll be slowly pushing their way eastwards through the rest of today and into tomorrow. That does mean quite a cloudy end to the day for most of us today. Northern and western parts of Scotland seeing some clearer spells to end the day, and that's slowly pushing its way north and eastwards as we go through the early hours hours of Sunday morning. We do see a weather front arriving, though, from the northwest overnight tonight and into the start of Sunday. Quite a mild night, particularly across southern and western areas where we see that thicker cloud. However, anywhere that does see those clearer spells could be turning a little chilly with temperatures in the low single figures. So starting the day on Sunday then, across the southern and western parts of the UK, there will be some patchy clear spells around, and that could lead to the odd patch of mist and fog in places. But generally quite a cloudy and grey start to the day. Quite a damp start across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but it's western parts of Scotland that will see the dampest start to the day. Some outbreaks of heavy rain across western parts of Scotland, pushing their way eastwards as we go through the morning. Eastern parts of Scotland, though, perhaps a bit of a brighter start. Through Sunday morning, though, that weather front then pushes its way eastwards as we go through the day, kind of fizzling out as it does so generally turning a little bit lighter. Parts of southern and eastern England, South Wales, southwest England, perhaps seeing a bit of a brighter afternoon as well. And then once that front pushes through Northern Ireland and western parts of Scotland, seeing some sunshine through the afternoon. Quite a mild day, temperatures generally in the double figures for most of us, but feeling a little blustery across the very far north of Scotland as we see those winds picking up and some blustery showers pushing their way eastwards as we go through the evening. That weather front continues to sink its way southwards as we go overnight Sunday and into the start